I'm the mayor. And I work for the company. I was here, I think they presented last year. There was this session, yeah. Okay. He's like, how do I get there?
You're seating over here, sir. Okay, ma'am, they're seating over here. It's the same. Get through this back way because the front two rows are kind of are sectioned off. They're seating over here. She's seating over here. Oh, that must be your wife and child. Okay, I'm like, what? over and over.
Right. Copy of the agenda.
All right, we normally don't begin this late, but I didn't see any point in trying to conduct the meeting with so many folks trying to get out of the room at once. So we'll start a little bit late. We'll call the commission report to order. Franklin County Commission report to order. It's Tuesday, June 30th, 2023 at 9:10 a.m. And as it's called the roll.
Commissioner Gray, Commissioner Weir, Commissioner Eager,
Here.
Commissioner Easton,
Here.
Commissioner Riley.
Here. Please join us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the invocation of the festival of Act.
Let us pray. Father, when your disciples came to you one time, they asked you not to how to build bridges or how to preach sermons or how to conduct business affairs. They asked you, Lord, teach us how to pray. And this morning, God, we pray and we ask you and we thank you for your presence. We need it today. We ask you, we thank you for your wisdom. And we thank you, we ask you, God, for your peace. Be with us today, God. May every word in this room today be orchestrated and guided by your sweet Holy Spirit. We have so much to be thankful for, God. You have blessed us in so many ways. I especially thank you for the rain, the beautiful green grass and the flowers. I thank you, God, for all the men that serve and all the women that serve in whatever capacity in this county, in this city. So we thank you and we praise you today, God, for the opportunity to know that you're involved in the affairs and you orchestrate and your will be done. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. And we all together say, Amen. God be with
Before we begin public comment, let me just, I'm not to embarrass anyone, but make it clear to everyone the dress code for Commissioner Ford and men's shorts are generally not allowed. This morning, that I called an audible exception in a couple of instances because it's 90, it was going to be 97, 98 degrees today, maybe more. And that in and of itself isn't a reason, but I see turning people away from this public meeting. So again, took it upon myself to call an audible. However, I would ask anyone, any of you gentlemen that are in shorts, to have some consideration next time and follow our dress code. With that said, let's move to public comment. Mr. Robert White, Texas.
My name is Robert White. My address is 3174 Cox Road. This is approximately 100 yards or so before you turn into Rusty Ranch, where my concerns lie as far as any development out there. I wrote a few notes. Obviously, Cox Road is a big issue for me because it's cut through from Highway 32 to Highway 165. It's used daily by multiple vehicles. The Cox Road is narrow There's no weight limits. It's rarely ever controlled by any DPS or county law, and it's used by motorcycles, drivers, and bicycle riders, just to get out of the city and probably just to the countryside. Along Cox Road, there are several cattle cars that are narrow, or two automobiles have trouble passing together, and if there's a bigger vehicle, one has to wait from the other. So I can see where that may be a concern. Traffic also often speeds down that road, and there's been a number of incidents. In fact, at one time, one of them ran off the road, ran to my fence, and tore it down, and damaged my front gate. Because there's no posted limits for Cox Road, and with a possible new development, we expect concrete trucks, gravel trucks, PVC trucks, building material trucks, and if development is ready, hundreds of additional cars. So in essence, this becomes a safety issue for me because there will be a terrible amount of traffic on there. The roads are narrow, they're trying to be maintained, but the shoulders are possibly being torn up by traffic, and our commissioner is doing a good job trying to keep all the potholes and stuff repaired. Have a concern, another safety concern is the fact that the school buses that go out there, they have no side roads or side pull-off at all to pick up and let off children. And without any control over that road, I can see eventually somebody getting seriously hurt, if not killed. I guess my traffic to the courts is obviously before any development, has there ever even been a traffic count to see how much traffic is being used on Cox Road? And if it is deemed not fit for additional cars and stuff, I would kind of submit that it should at least be brought up to text out standard for speed limits and load limits and for heavy traffic. My second concern is,
Mr. White, there's and the rest of the people signed it. There is a 3-minute, there is a 3-minute limit on public comment. We ask you to line. In your case, you may not have been aware of that, so can you sum it up in 1 minute? Yes,
Number 2 is where will the development get water? If they drill wells, will it pull down our wells, particularly in the dry season? Number 3, what about the septics that would be used? Would it be the Roby system or the standard on saturation of ground? Will it anything migrate toward Blanco River, which is nearby? And the last one is I know that there are some Indian mounds out there, and I don't know if there's any burial grounds or anything else. This area needs to be checked out. Thank you very much.
Thank you for abbreviating.
Yeah.
And well.
We have 2 items on today's agenda, RV parks and tiny home regulations, as well as the development rules and regulations for subdivision rules. Both of the existing regulations are in need of modification. Several weeks ago, when you held a public workshop on these issues, you heard comments from numerous citizens from various perspectives. The meeting was the most constructive meeting I have attended with this court in the past 3 years. Prior to that meeting, we were provided a draft of proposed RV and tiny home regulations. Unfortunately, there was no draft of the proposed changes to the subdivision rules. However, the comments extended across both regulations, and the discussions that ensued was positive, give and take on virtually all points that were raised. Today, it appears that you're prepared to make changes to both of these regulations. However, we, the public, do not know what the changes you're now proposing following all the good dialogue during the public hearing. Please take a breath and take both of these issues. Both the most recent proposals that you intend to vote on for the interested public to view before you vote. We would like to know which of the issues raised during the public hearing have been addressed. By delaying the vote another 2 weeks, your constituents can have one more bite of the apple. Based on your reactions during the hearing, it appears that you are listening and intend to take positive steps, but we do not know what those steps are intended. By tabling these items, the interested parties can make contact with the commissioners with any remaining concerns or to provide support. You have just about pitched a perfect game when it comes to open and transparent government. Take 2 more weeks to complete the process. Thank you. Here's a copy of my comments for the public hearing.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Mr. Dees. Sir, are you part of the developer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, you're more like a party, and so we'll give you an opportunity to get that agenda, and not be part of just the public comment. That's where I would keep.
That's fantastic.
Bob White. Let me guess, it's weird.
Good morning.
Is it weird or white?
We get dramatic.
Thank you, sir.
I live on Cox Road. Bob White. Cox Road's a narrow 2-lane rural road with shoulders breaking down. Not enough resources are allocated now for speed control on what has become a cut through for traffic traveling toward Austin or San Marcos New Braunfels via 165, 290, or Range Road 32. 4 blind turns, 1 blind hill, 4 cattle guards, and a single lane low water crossing present life-threatening obstacles to travel. It's now traversed by passenger vehicles and large commercial trucks and trailers traveling twice the speed limit on a regular basis. This development will increase traffic incrementally, lives and public safety are at further risk. Where are environmental and economic impact studies? What restrictions for reckless development has Blanco County put in place? Shouldn't they be revisited before this gets out of hand? Our natural resources are questioned. Where does the water come from? Where does the septic effluent go? We have wells in Blanco County that are dry, low. Our river is not running in quite some time. Frankly, we live in a semi-arid region which has no reservoirs in place. Rainfall averages here are variable. The one who just needs to go to Red Bud, have birds sit out with the wall, and you can tell the drought years, they're frequent. So I want to say this: we live in the age of big tech, big corporation, big development. Why does a great rural county need to surrender its rural charm? One need only look east to see the impact on every facet of life in Hays County, every facet. And I'm a refugee, 6 years. I can tell you how it's there. And part of it is, we've got families who live here for decades, as well as newcomers like myself who arrived here looking for a better way of life. And we elected you to be our voice and represent us. Don't open us up to small lots, easy in, so-called affordable subsidized housing. Tight restrictions make rural development, larger acreage tracts, and protect our American dream. We don't know much about this proposed development, but we do know it's a lot of homes on low acreage. The simple math is quite easy to see what the impact on public services will be that are already stretched thin on our school system, Blanco, and just the infrastructure itself. I urge you to practice conscious capitalism. Just because you can does not mean you should. Exercise due diligence, research every aspect of this decision, and do not rush to judgment. The residents of Fox Road are dependent on your wise governance. Thank you.
Linda Poindexter.
First again, how about that? is the one that started on Cox Road.
Can you pull that mic down just a little bit so we hear?
Okay. I am at the point that's going to be on Cox Road, 3525. From 35, right over 35, you hit the first cattle guard, that's me. My fence line, property line, you know, 3 acres, is about, I don't know if it's 2 feet from that cattle guard. Now, I've only been in that neighborhood for 10 years, but my fence, my property is right at the curve of 35, on Cox Road, 235. My fence and gate have been knocked down 5 times. I've had to replace it. Y'all probably heard about me already. And that's been pretty bad. My issue, and a lot of great issues have been brought up this morning, a lot of things that I want to cover, we still don't have answers to. But eminent domain scares the heck out of me. My fence line is maybe 45 feet from that road. Not at the cattle guard, except goes down it's a little bit wider. Doubling that road, pretty sure y'all come into my property. As well as the Cox property across the road. So, I would like to see maps, I would like to know more about, y'all can tell me, north of Rose Ranch, Baker, east of blah, blah, blah. Well, visual person, I need to see a map, I need to see here I am, where that is, you know. I don't know if there's a website or there's some writing. I just found out in your precinct, Mr. Riley, so I might ask you about some more of that. But that was my concern, the roads. I walk my neighborhood every morning, or most every morning, and I can tell you those roads are narrow, and there's major construction. Cement trucks, double big back trailer pulling equipment, and they don't always move sides on me, and they go pretty fast. So there's a lot of, anybody can do anything they want. It's kind of scary me. So, yeah, I'm interested. I'm worried about the road, it's gonna be yellow, wow, what's gonna happen? And what price might have. So, remember me, Mr. Brown. Point that. Okay. Thank you very much.
Cindy Cox.
I said, I'm waiting on the course time. Thank you very much. I had this, I think it's a really bad idea.
Thanks, sir.
I was ready to talk to Demo 32 now, I have 4 times, impact out there would be horrible. Like I said, for everybody else's opinion, water issues, the school bus, the traffic across, I'm a kid. We run out of it, we walk the river. Now you're not scared, you might get out of my road like that. They're bringing it right on our homes, just, you know, I can't live with it. It's always so fun. Thank you.
All right, we have a communication from Carolyn Benzoff. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to read the entire thing. She expresses concerns about high density water, wastewater. But I will read a little of it. I asked the commissioners in their consideration of this proposed development of rustic hills to do the following. Restrict the number of houses to at least 1.5 and preferably even less, with larger lots, require rainwater collection and not wells or canyon lake water. Study the amount of traffic on CR 406 and Cox Road. Look at the reality of the developer using canyon lake water and how that will impact current users of this water and the future of the lake itself. Carefully evaluate the proposed waste treatment proposed by the developer and preferably deny the project altogether. As a native of South Blanco County and observing the development of the area over the past 73 years, I am always saddened to see the beautiful ranches I witnessed as a child now covered with houses and growing up with cedar rather than being raised by sheep, goats, and cattle. However, I am also a realist, having myself left to pursue a career where you had a steady job and paycheck rather than like my parents. Relying only on rain for crops, grazing, and the price of livestock to make a living. Most children did not retain their farms, ranches, due to sustainability. It became inevitable that ranches were sold to developers, and the population became infatuated with country life. High density development becomes nothing more than cities that they left for the country life. Development is inevitable for our beautiful, perfectly located near metropolitan areas. I ask you as our county commissioners, leaders, and planners of our county to look very carefully at development, allow it yet restricted to avoid high density and implement methods to preserve our groundwater. Amusing is that my father was a county commissioner from 1935 to 1943, and looking through his papers from that time, the issue was developing good county roads that were continually passable for the residents. He was instrumental in the development of Range Road 32, Range Road 165, and CR 406, Concord. Development was not an issue. Times do change. All right, it's all public comment. Moving on, item 1 on the agenda, consideration of possible adoption of this prior meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to dispense with reading of the minutes and accept them as presented.
Is there a second? Second. Mr. Riley, discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
What did you say? I just heard it fast. What did you say? Suspend what?
Dispense with reading of the minutes and accept them as presented.
Ma'am? Item 2 on the agenda is the estimated payroll.
I make a motion to approve the estimated payroll for June 2023 in the amount of $476,718.01.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
For eager discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. I bet you're trying to tell me we didn't actually vote on the previous one. On item 1, motion made by Commissioner Eager, seconded by Commissioner Riley. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, carries. Item 3, official reports. And I believe they are all in subject to review.
Motion to approve the official reports as.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Leisman, discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. Motion carries. Item 4.
I'd like to make a motion ratifying and approving line item transfers as presented.
I wanted to offer, well, there's your motion. I wanted to offer an opportunity to take them separately if you wanted to take them. Use your motion, take them all up.
You do it, however we.
No, it's your motion.
Well, let me make it into 2 motions. I'd like to make a motion to approve the line item transfer, for veteran services.
Is there a second? Second. Commissioner Riley? No. Discussion.
Are we gonna catch you second?
Commissioner Riley? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
I would like to make a motion, approving the line item transfer from capital general funds to road materials.
Is there a second? Commissioner Eager, discussion.
I'm asking, we are asking to move these funds into road materials so we can continue our work in precincts 1 and 4. With our,
No, you're not. This is my bright idea.
okay.
And there's two, I said this before, you'll be here again, there's two very legitimate points of view on this. One is, when we make a budget, when we make the sheriff out of budget, we expect the sheriff to follow his budget. And not come asking for more money at 3/4 mark. That's true of everybody. However, things do happen in life, and inflation can get a hold of us. More importantly, for my own purposes, is in this particular case, I suggested this. I realize it's your motion, but I'm the one who put the line item transfer before you. And I did so because June, and I think Mr. Cox will stand up and echo this. June, July, August, and September are prime months for getting any kind of paving, road work done in Texas. And you and Commissioner Riley are at an extreme disadvantage, and I don't think it's good for our roads, the county roads, for the city, the driving public, for you not to be able to do something in the summer. And $30,000 is a lot of money to throw at that problem. That's why I put it up here.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate your.
But there is another point of view.
Well, another point of view that put us in this is the, y'all heard it a million times on other expenses, is with the economy at the rate of inflation and what things, when we're getting bids on these projects and buying the materials, some of them have gone up 300%. Ma'am, can I help you with something? Y'all are talking while I cannot
I
hear.
was asking someone to stop talking, we're sorry, we're trying to hear, yeah. We're trying to hear.
Can I continue? Thank you. Anyway, post-COVID, we ran into not being able to get certain crews to come out and extend the timeline, made it more expensive. That's why we're requesting to take some additional funds to continue our work while it's still in prime.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let me just say before we move to item 5, the outstanding bills. This room has terrible acoustics, and we've received criticisms over the years, and we tried, and I can tell you that it's echoing in my ears. It sounds like you can hear me across the street, but maybe you can't. And I apologize for that. Now, I think this room was made for Commissioner Leeson, former Judge Guthrie, people with booming voices. Unfortunately, some of us aren't blessed with that, and doing the best we can, but it's 106 years old, and about, or maybe it's 7. And we do with it what we can and apologize if it's an inconvenience. All right, item 5, outstanding bills.
So there was a bill that came in late for a loan payment for equipment in the amount of $205,533.79. I would like to add that to the existing bills of $1,037,893.70 and make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Commissioner Weir, continue discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We have the privilege of having the Nathan Grove with us today to present the outside auditor's report. Okay.
Good morning. Like he said, I'm Keith Nathan Grove from Blocker, Fredericksburg. I apologize in advance. I have my water bottle here. As this year we had some rain, so the mold and the weeds got my pollen and my allergies going. Before I get to concern the audit report. As you all well know, in these times, they're very challenging, and you have many issues that starting to crop up that haven't been near as prolific as in the past, i.e. inflation, higher interest rates, and then, of course, persistent debt ceiling problems, population growth, and the border. Reason I'm saying this is because in many of our government entities we audit, which includes counties, cities, and schools, the budgeting process becomes more tricky, and it also needs some tweaking as far as risk assessment. And so, with that, I want to lead into the audit report, because the audit report, we'll get it back in a minute, is a good, clean, you've got unqualified opinion in the top line, the county is in good financial shape, which is important going into these budgeting and setting the tax rate times. And therefore, these financial statements that we use can become a key part of the whole process, and then the culmination of that is you got a clean part of it, what everybody wants to get, okay? All right. So I go through the high points, anytime you have any questions, you stop asking, sir.
So when you say good, clean audit report, you give me good on so far as to say we're the top of your class of all the entities that you audit, we're in the top with an A group.
Well, I don't, of course, I can't make judgments, they're subjective to mine, but in my opinion, just like the audit report, we got to in the top category, the top 3 or 4, that we do as far as financial position and financial statements, okay? All right, financial statements themselves. Remember this year, or maybe you don't, we had to adopt government accounting standard for 87 on leases, and that makes us have to record leases receivable as well as leases payable. But the best part of it is, if you recall, for GASB 68 retirement, GASB 75 OPEB liabilities, those really concern your GASB statements and don't concern your fund financial statements. It's a big key difference. Because in y'all's world, y'all are adopting the budget and setting a tax rate, and those are based on the fund financial statements, which that's the county treasurer keeps the record. Well, as far as that's concerned, you're still showing lease payments as an expense. You're still showing the retirement contribution with GMRS as an expense. The liabilities, the assets associated with those accounts just effectively GASB 30. Clear as mud? But from your standpoint, you'll just need to remember what you're paying out, what you're getting in, that's what your budget will set the tax rate. Okay? All right. So there are 2 sets of financial statements. The first set is what's called the GASB 34, the business type model, where we include all your capital assets, long-term debt, and the retirement and pension liabilities come with a profit or loss just like business. The second set are fund financial statements, which are, as far as I'm concerned, what we need to look at, because that's what you need on running the county and setting the budget protection. But I will go through and highlights on the GASB 34 or point out the numbers. But first off, right off the bat on page 1, index of independent audit report. This states we made audit financial statements in Blanco County as of for the year ending September 30, 2022. And in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly the financial position of the county as of September 30, 2022. Standard auditors, key opinion letter, unqualified opinion, what everybody wants. That's what you can get. The financial statements, the first 2 statements in your audit report, the A1 and B1 schedules, those are the GASB 34, and they are more like for your information, because they include all those numbers that I was talking to you earlier about your capital assets, long-term debt. And you can see if you look on page 11, under the last item there, before we get to total assets, the net pension asset, you are members of the TCDRS, and that has now become, in the past, it was been a liability. This year, it is a net pension asset. What that means is right now, as it ended, and this is based on their actual evaluation of 12/21. You had more assets down there than what you estimated liability. It was about 1.1 million. But I have some comments later to show how that number fluctuates and what's gonna happen as we go down the. Okay, but I wanted you to know, you do have a net pension asset as of this day. The second part, on the next page, you get to see also, under the liabilities, we have a report of right to use leases payable. What happened in the government and county standards world, if you now lease an asset like a copier, you have to show that you asset, right to use asset is for as long as the related liability. But like I said, you're paying $300 a month for that copier, that's what you're gonna set the budget and set the tax rate on. In government and county world, they want us to report asset and related liability. That's what the difference is, okay? All right, then we get to the operating statement with the net income statement last year on page 13 and 14. Remember, this includes the depreciation and the retirement and OPEB liabilities. Therefore, you look down there at the bottom, you see third line up, fourth line up, change in net position. You got a positive change in net position of $3,760,055. That would be the equivalent of net income statement after the capital. Good financial statement. Pages 15 and 16 start the fund financial statements. These give the breakdown across the top of the major funds: General Fund, Road and Bridge, the ARPA, American Rescue Plan Fund, your capital projects, and the other funds, of course, all your special revenue funds. And you can see the differences there between your assets and liabilities, and the bottom line there, your total fund balances. You can see each one of the funds, the General, Road and Bridge, all that good fund balances and good financial shape. Page 17 gives you a reconciliation, how to get from the fund financials to the GASB 34, that's where you add all the capital assets, depreciation and retirement of liabilities. Page 18 and 19 is the statement of revenues and expenditures. These show on the fund basis how your operations ended up last year. You can see the same major funds across the top there. And you can see that the general fund change was positive, road and bridge had a small deficit, and likewise across the board we can see the changes by those different funds. So last year the total increase, net change positive, fund balance 481,2,874. Of course, a big chunk of that, 3.5 million was the issue of bonds. But you got to remember, in government and county, the year you issue the bonds, you get that boost in fund balance. And later on, as you spend that money, that's going to take that fund balance back away. So the reality of, you take that 3.5 million issued on bonds, and you really add about a $600,000 increase in fund balance. Still a good job. And likewise on page 20, it just shows the changes. You get to the fund statements of GASB 34 for the operations, and then once again, you have those same items, adjustments for the GASB 68, retirement, pension, and depreciation. Finally, at page 21, we have a summary of your private purpose trust funds, your custodial funds, and on page 22 shows the changes. And when I refer to custodial funds, that was a change required by GASB 84. The agency funds, the collections by the JP, the county clerk, tax assessor collector are run through now what's called a custodial fund. And you can see on page 22, there is a sizable amount of dollars that run through those accounts, $3 million. Of course, the county gets the people, and a portion of that, most of it goes to the great state of Texas. Notes starting on page 23. Additional disclosures required by joint accepted accounting principles. The first part of the note just goes through explains the use of fund accounting and the conversion to GASB 34. The notes I need to point out, I want to point out, start on page 30. Deposits and investments. The county is required to comply with the Public Funds Investment Act. At the end of September, the county's deposits at the bank were secured by FDIC insurance and or pledged securities. Down toward the bottom of the page, the county also invested in the governmental investment pool, Tech School. Tech School is not, of course, covered by FDIC insurance and or pledged collateral, but it has built-in safeguards and is required through the state treasurer's office that it maintains a net asset value at or near $1. So therefore, you cannot use too much money, and it is good, safe investment, and therefore it also complies with public funds investment. Bottom line is, your deposits investments comply with the public funds investment. Page 32 shows you changes in all your capital assets. As you can see, it's been busy. The county and the grant funds and numerous other financings have increased substantially the level of capital assets, and that's those are reflected there in the additions and then related depreciation expense. And then on page 33, top of page 35 shows your debt issuances. This shows compliance with those debt service agreements as you made the required principal and interest payments on the debt. And you can see there it gives a summary of each one of the outstanding limited tax notes or refunding bonds, and then also gives a summary of your financing agreements or your what we used to call capital lease agreements. And then probably shows the total amounts outstanding, including your OPEB and your pension liabilities, which is $9,781,000. So you comply with your debt service agreements by paying the required amount of principal and interest. Bottom page 37 shows or includes a 4 or 5 page summary of your pension with the TCERS. It goes through and gives you all the information that's provided to us by them. We go through the actual assumption, what they invested, and then shows over on page 41. Changes in your account, that's down there, they have a separate account for each county. And entity in that system, and therefore you can see, shows your total pension liability of $11,522,000, once you have money down there, in that position, $12 million. So we have a net pension asset of $1,161,000. Bottom page shows the sensitivity analysis using a 7.6% discount rate that fluctuates, what that would be to that net pension asset liability. Likewise, starting with page 43, through the TCERS, also has a group term life OPEB benefit. And that is based on the payment of a death benefit to retirees. Therefore, it's included in your financial statements, and this again is given to us by the Texas District Retirement System. And that benefit only costs the county $20,643 in contributions. And it goes through the same thing, the liability, the statutory assumptions, discount rate, and then at the bottom page 45, the OPEB liability for the county, again, is $250,000, $18. And remember that benefit you won't just start paying the old method. So you just pay the money through your retirement contributions. So there's no funding. And so therefore, the liability just basically increases each year. But it's covered by the contributions you make each month paid to TCERS.
I can stop you there. Can we stop?
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts or opinions on retirement contributions by counties and whether we're in shape to be able to increase the county contribution to retirees or to the retirement account?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a consideration. The good thing about the Texas County District Retirement System is private investment running the major 3 county retirement systems in the state of Texas. Almost all the counties or entities that we audit in that system are at least funded at 90% plus. And several of them, like y'all, have actually turned into an pension asset. But there is a word of warning that comes with that. But can I address that at any point?
Yeah, specifically when I'm.
I was going to get that. I wasn't going to miss it.
Specifically was
Right, retirement and stability.
some of our neighbors are contributing more.
Exactly. Yeah, I want to point out 2 items on that schedule that include that. Okay, that's basically the notes, the financial statements are, like I said, The key ones are page 49 and 50. If you as the governing body always like to see the results, how do we do to the budget? Page 49, general fund, you can see your revenues exceeded your budget amounts, your expenditures were under budget. So overall, in both cases, your revenues and expenditures, you have positive variances, and that's always good. So we had a good operating year. If you actually had a net change positive budget for both the revenues and expenditures, overall, 229. Positive variance in the budget. Good job. Page 50 is the same way for the road bridge fund. Your budgeted revenues exceeded what actual revenues exceeded your budget amount for both revenues. On the expenditure side, you were less, you had favorable variance, you spent less money than you had planned. And therefore, in both cases, you also had a positive overall variance in the budget of $180,626. And that's always good, especially when you can stay on your budget with your expenditures like you had in both cases. And here we get to page 51 and 52. This is where this is what I want to point out. You can see the key items on the schedule are items C and D, in my opinion. And those items reflect your net pension asset, and it gives you over the last 8 years, and this will actually be a 10-year schedule. And then the other part is that item D, what's your percentage funded. You can see it's been 90 plus, and this year it went to a net pension assets, you actually 110.08% funded. So it's good financial state. But remember, this valuation is done 12/31/21. Okay, the actuaries are even further behind than the auditors. Believe it or not. But the one thing two things I want to point out actually are on page 55. The actuaries use some assumptions in basing, and they generate the numbers on these assumptions. And if you look down at those assumptions, look at about the fifth item down, inflation. 2.5%. You seen that in a while? Same way, you go down 2 items. That's the rate of return, 7.5%. Well, they're better investors than I am if they get that. But anyway, my point here is these actuarial evaluations were based on that 2.5% and that 7.5% investment rate of return. They even put out the TCDRS and the TMRS. They expect when the 22 valuations come out of the show, they might already have or will be shortly, that these numbers are going to change substantially. So instead of having that pension asset, you might have a liability, go back to a liability situation. And of course, depending on how long inflation and investments go, that could be, get worse. So therefore, you have the option of making supplemental one-time payments to the system, and those are being done or being looked at by other counties and other entities that are in their retirement systems. So you can, if you get that valuation this year, you can look at it and then look at your budgeting and see what you want to do. But there is a concern across the board, and especially for some of those counties that were not quite like y'all, 100% funded this year. They're already like 80-90%, so they're seriously considering keeping or using that one-time payment or supplemental payment, whatever you call it. But yes, that is an option, and it's hard to say, but just looking at these numbers, I can't understand how they would ever not get worse with the inflation and the investment rate of return. Of course, these numbers are generated for the long haul, but the sad part is, who knows what the inflation and investment rate of return are these. So there's a lot of, there is some of our counties and entities are looking at, or maybe already have done supplemental payments. That's what.
I think we are currently
contributing $1.50 to the employees, $1 for retirement. And I believe some of our neighbors are up around $2.
Right? Yes. The contribution rates, you get to pick and choose each year what you want, the level you want, and some of them have. Also, instead of doing supplemental one-time payments, that's an option too, where you can pick your poison and pay it out for it by upping the amount of your contribution. So that is an option. And then the OPEB liability shown on page 56, 57, that's just what I was telling you about, where you can see that benefit, it's not funded, so liability, you can see it's increased each year, but in the long run, that's a good, great benefit, it only costs you $20,000. So it's not funded, but it's paid to go with it. The supplemental schedule, they just give you further details of the special revenue funds, the asset liabilities fund balance, and the revenue expenditures. And then back we get to the internal control for this year, and before with the and the federal funding and the new requirements of the Government County Standards Board, we've had across the board in our counties and our government entities, we've almost had findings of material weaknesses, so you are not alone. Because there were new requirements and it was a little bit different. We had to disclose those, which we've done here. And like I said, you're not alone. Almost everybody across the board had findings this year. And in your case, what this means is, in addition to audit, we had to test for compliance with internal control used for financial reporting. Excuse me, and that's where we found that had some deficiencies in internal control. Second one, we had a test for compliance with laws, contracts, and grants, but we had no instances of non-compliance there. The internal control stuff, the deficiencies related to accounting matters, and then of course with the recording of the GASB 87, the GASB 84, to summarize them, and then also recording of lease purchase agreements, reconciliation bank accounts, recording accruals, and then, of course, the last one, of course, always grant recording of documentation. Those are listed here, the finding, the material, the finding, and then the county's response, which they've already addressed most of these issues and corrected the accounting procedure, or will correct the accounting procedure. So yes, we did have some findings, and like I said, we've had findings across the board on all our items, all our audits, because the federal government, their infinite wisdom threw all these dollars out at these entities, and we're still looking at interim guidance. We haven't had the final rates yet. And then the last letter is also required by Government Accounting Standards Board, where we did to provide community governing body these items as listed in this letter, and therefore the findings. We've adopted the necessary Government Accounting Standards Boards and comply with them standards. There were no difficulties in counting performing the audit, no corrections on uncorrected misstatements. We made the adjustments to book the GASB 87 liabilities and financing rules. No disagreements in matter, management, no other matters that require this letter to be forwarded to you. Like I say, this year, the first year, we had some findings and internal control related to the accounting matters required by those GASB statements. And so that's, like I said, across the board and NPD.
So,
any questions?
So, the findings that you made apparently weren't so significant that it didn't cause you, prevent you from saying up front that we, very clean audit.
That's right.
And everybody in your world got findings this year.
That's right.
And
Or I would say everybody, but substantially all.
so, and is this year particularly, we always rely on you and you always listen
is this year particularly reliable because there was an audit of the auditor, so to speak?
Oh, peer review was your, yeah. Well, no, it's more of a, it's more of a compliance with government standards board and also those grants that you passed. Right, we passed. And, but there, what I was saying, that really doesn't affect these. These are more driven by grant compliance and reporting to the feds. You know, the same with the school districts, they have to give some reports to the TDA. And so those matters, yes, there are weaknesses, but like you said, overall, you've got unqualified opinion on your financial statements. And so I want to make that distinction. The financial statements are good, you got unqualified opinion. Internal control matters used for financial reporting that concern the reporting of those GASB adjustments, government accounting standards board statements, recording of lease purchases, and the reconciliation process. Yes, they're findings, but they are correctable and some of them don't even affect your fund financial statements. They affect the GASB statements, which I've already explained. That's different than fund financial statements, okay? So yes, we have some internal control problems. We've addressed them and we're correcting them.
Commissioners, questions, thoughts?
Can you rate us A to F?
A.
Anything else? Thank you, sir.
You betcha, and I point out one that this is off the record, this is not in the South report. But I see you coming up next to your document, you're proving your investment properties. And I'm one of the old guys, I lived through the 80s. And we've already seen 3 banks, major banks busting. Now that's been let up a little bit because they issued increased debt. But all I want to do is point out, I think it's part of the investment report, you need to look, because you think money is the bank is safe. Is it really? Pledge securities. These reports are given to you. They need to be part of your investment report. What does the bank pledge to securities to cover your account? Federal Home Loan Bank. Those government-backed securities. What have they done lately? Tanked. September 30th report, they got a par value of 25.4 million. Their market value is what? 23.5? $2 million. Part of the investment property policy, look at these. Keep a monitor on that. Don't look at the par, look at the fair market value. Because those government bonds are sinking, they've already sunk 80%. The interest rates continue to stay up. Okay? It's just something that needs to be monitored. People miss this. Great, huge, in my opinion. Fiduciary responsibility is yes, you have money in the bank, you think it's a year. But look at those reports. Because yes, government bailed out, the 3 banks already failed. How much more money have they got? A whole bunch of these regional banks failed.
Well, I don't think we put it under the package.
Nope. Spread it out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Laura, are there any other questions? Okay.
This court want to, vote to, acknowledge or accept outside.
Make a motion to accept the outside auditor, report for year ending in September 30th, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Riley, discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
All right, thank you.
No opposition to item 7, the investment policy. policy. For you. Any questions? I think we should, roll this wins. And this, so,
I make a motion to approve the Glencoe County investment policy.
is there a second?
I'll say.
Mr. Eager, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Health and dental insurance,
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the county judge to sign the health and dental insurance renewal forms with the Texas Association of Counties for the year 23-24.
is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Weir, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Reed, do you have anything to do with Flag Day?
Yes, sir, I'll be there tomorrow. Good morning, Commissioner Glenn Reed. I'm going to join the VFW, the Boy Scouts at the flag retirement ceremony as a guest. I will be there at 12 a.m. tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, in the Lowe's parking lot. So we'll just see how they do it. I'm looking forward to participating.
And we're not only being asked about Flag Day, but Flag Week, right?
Sorry, I don't, nothing to add to that.
Okay.
That's it. Put me on the spot all the time. That's part of the course. I will be back soon.
Thank you, sorry for.
No, I okay.
Does anyone want to, move to adopt the proclamation?
I want to adopt the flag declaring June 14, 2023 Flag Day, and June 11, 2023 Flag Day.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Eager's discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item 10, interlocal agreement with Brown County. Not consistent with the two interlocals with Lakeville and Johnson City regarding territorial jurisdiction.
I make a motion to authorize the county judge to sign an interlocal agreement with the town of Round Mountain for the ETJ.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Rear,
Yes.
discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item 11, homestead exemption. I want to make sure Ms. Fry, Mason aren't hiding in the audience. So I think they're here. So, Ms. Fry and I have been discussing and working on this quite some time now. And we have until the end of June to declare what we want the homestead exemption to be. If we want to do anything. The statute provides for a $5,000 homestead exemption in the case of county. And interestingly, school districts and I believe municipalities have the ability to, they have full flexibility in terms of they can do dollar amounts if they so choose, or they can do ranges and whatever. Counties do not. I have advised of this extensively recently. And so what we have, the situation we have is with the $5,000 floor, and we can do percentages up to 20% under the statute for a homestead exemption. Ms. Fry has run the numbers with me, and if we were to go to, last year we were talking in terms of $50,000, maybe $100,000 homestead exemption. And that helps people with smaller homes than it does larger homes, but I don't know if that's a bad thing. It obviously has more impact on somebody with a $400,000 home than it does somebody with a $4 million home. And I would have preferred that approach, obviously, but because counties are required to only do percentages and only up to 20%, we calculated it in that fashion. so that a person with a $400,000 home at 20% would get an $80,000 homestead credit, and a person with a $1 million home an $800,000 credit. Anyway, running the numbers shows that the county can afford to declare a 20% homestead exemption, and it would have about a $400,000 to $600,000 effect on revenue collection. I personally think it's a really good idea. I don't know that it says possible action to increase homestead exemption. We need to do the soon, but you can't wait one more meeting if you are inclined to. Otherwise, you should consider it. I think all I have are real preliminary numbers, but 20% exemption would cost $200,000 more than a 15% exemption, which would cost $200,000 more than a 10% exemption.
So Judge, your recommendation is a 20%?
It is, I believe. Now, I do think I will one more, we're gonna run into real close territory on the new revenue and voter approval rates this year. We're starting to see that constriction that we've been worried about for years with all this legislation in cabinet. But all that said, and this will tighten us a little bit more, but it appears from the numbers that Ms. Wright has given me that we're still going to be able to support the departments that we do now, possibly do the increases that we're going to be discussing a little bit with Evergreen, service like that, et cetera, and still provides some tax relief to people with homesteads. So, yeah, I actually believe in this 20%.
So I make a motion to increase the homestead exemption to 20%.
I'll say. Seconded by Commissioner Lear, discussion. So, I would like to reserve the right, because we don't have to, our deadline is the end of the month. But if this Friday, and we've been working on this for over 2 months, so I feel comfortable with it. But if something comes up, because they are going through an awful lot of hearings, purchase hearings right now. If something comes up, we'll reserve the option of bringing back to you the homestead exemption discussion again at the next commission. With that said, I thank you for that motion. It's going to help people in White County and homesteads. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Salary survey. Please.
So you save the money, and then I follow that up and spend money. But,
I'm not sure this is saving money.
good morning, or I guess good afternoon now.
You know, and I was just saying to set off your conversation, keeping employees, not having to continually hire and hire and hire, and train is safety.
Absolutely. Yeah, turnover is very expensive. We can touch on that a little bit. I think Connie's going to be helping out with advancing the slides on the PowerPoint presentation we have on one of the screens. And Connie, on the bottom right, the slide, if you click on that, we'll just pull up the main presentation where we won't see the upcoming slides. Okay. Right here, you can see this is what we need to put on.
Two more over. One more. Yeah, so we can go ahead and go to the next one, and then, let's go to one after that. So I guess first of all, it's good to be back with you. I recognize some familiar faces and folks that I saw when I was here during orientation and the focus groups that we had in this very room. And I was facing this way, talking to your staff, and you got a heck of a team here. I just want to say thank you to you, Judge, and to Shelley for all the help as we've gone out throughout this process. And, this started with a kickoff call that we had many months ago, and then we evaluated the current system that you have. And right now, you're currently paying employees annual salaries. There's not defined ranges of minimum and maximums. And I think one of the things that we heard was that you wanted to not only know a competitive position, do we pay people competitively in the marketplace, but that you also want to modernize your pay plan. And so we feel like we've got some recommendations to bring to you today that would do that. As I said, we did conduct those orientation sessions and those focus groups to hear from your employees, but we also took that one step further. We surveyed your employees, what we call a job assessment tool survey. And we gave every one of your employees, and we poured them, and gave them an opportunity to comment in their own words and tell us what they do in service here to Blanco. The other part was we had to compare you to somebody. So we surveyed the market as well. And we came up with a market position that I'll share with you in a moment. We revised the pay plan, and we ultimately came back with what we believe are fair and competitive recommendations. Fair internally, how we pay people, and competitive externally, competitive to market. Slide, please. Then we provide you with a couple of implementation options today when we get to the money slide. And those salaries that we're showing you, the costs that we're showing you are not if you vote on it, is going to be all of those costs are incurred on the day of the vote. Obviously, this is spread out throughout the fiscal year, right? Next slide. So the compensation philosophy, you want to be competitive to market. You want to have pay practices that are fair, that are flexible, that are fiscally responsible. And we recommended an open range pay plan, not a step plan. What does that mean? That means that we created recommended minimum and maximum salaries for every one of the job titles that you have here. That's how we build pay plans. We don't build on personalities. We don't necessarily build on performance because we don't know those metrics. What we build them on are individual job classifications or job titles. And we slot those job titles competitively in the market. We create competitive market positions. Then we take employees that occupy those job titles and we move them into these new competitive ranges. And that's what we did with this open range pay plan. And then how are you going to move employees moving forward? Now, once we implement the plan, then you have to maintain the plan. And we recommend doing so by rewarding employees based on time served as well as performance, where you're combining the two of those together. Slide, please. One of the things I wanted to highlight, because it was next level, was the employee participation that you had. I said you had a good team. When I was here for outreach, I heard many times that it's a family. We're not just a number. We love the people that we work with. We love the community. But the employee participation piece, typically the national average is around 70%. When we survey employees, we usually get about a 70% response rate. Well, you were up over 80%. And when we look at the number of job titles that were represented in the study, we're not going to focus on the only 2 that we didn't get. We're going to focus in on the 42 that we did get. We got almost 100% participation there. Why does that matter? Because it leads us to a more defensible recommendation. The more participation we have, the better we feel about what we ultimately recommend to you, the policymakers. Next slide. Compensation review. So after we did that internal piece, that classification piece, then we go out to market and we compare you to folks. The 40 benchmark classifications, we compared them, and we kind of, what we feel in this very rapidly changing market was a pretty good 7 matches for each job title. They were adjusted for cost of living, because I'm sure if I was sitting in your position, I'd be saying, well, wow, we're comparing San Antonio and Austin to our market. We have a population of 12,000, how can we do that? Well, I feel as though
First of all, you're in a very unique position in your history, quite frankly. This market is one of the fastest growing markets and rapidly changing markets that I operate in more in the United States. It's extraordinary what's happening, and I think you're feeling some of that. So where do you want to build your pay plan? Do you want to pay people and build your pay plan on where you are today, or where you know you're going? And we try to strike that balance there. So we chose, with the help of staff and with the help of the in-person outreach, where we asked employees, who do you think we should be comparing you to? Who are we losing employees to? That's how we came up with the list ultimately of market peers. And I can tell you that of everyone on that list, you're only ahead of 2 of them on the entire list as it relates to average pay. So if you think that one of them is skewing you to the high side, that's not the case. Next slide. Compensation review. So when we talk about you're looking at annual salaries, so you don't have established ranges. So we couldn't necessarily compare established ranges that you don't have to the marketplace. So we made a judgment call and we compared you at the midpoint of the market. Why the midpoint? I call the midpoint kind of our retention number. And if you have a minimum and maximum salary, we believe that by the time an employee gets to the midpoint of their salary range, they've got a little experience. They've got some tenure. They've probably got the required certifications that they need to get in their job. But something else happens. They become very desirable to your competition. We've heard a lot where, folks might come here, they might get the certification that they need, and then they might even go somewhere else for a little bit more money. So at the midpoint of the salary range, we compare your average actual salaries to the midpoint through about 22% behind market. That's in the 50th percentile. That's just the average of the market. If we were to look and try to place you at the 60th percentile of market, that moves up to more than 30% behind market. What that means is, first of all, as I go around the country, I've got about 35 different engagements in 9 different states. You are not incredibly unique in that number. I have some clients that are farther behind the market than that, so I don't want you to think, oh my gosh, we're 25% behind market. What are we going to do here? But I would echo what the judge said, that is that turnover is very expensive. When you start looking at turnover, it usually averages for the management or higher positions 1.5 times the annual salary of the employee that you're replacing. When you're looking at hourly positions, one of those introductory positions, like the maintenance tech, for example, custodial positions, those are on average 50% of the annual salary in turnover. So it is absolutely more expensive to go through that continued grind of trying to replace positions in higher positions and deal with the turnover and increased overtime and vacancies and onboarding and all of that than it is to retain your employees. That midpoint number is that retention number. And so for you to be competitive to market, this commission needs to contemplate increases to salaries so that you can better retain employees. Next slide. Key considerations. As I told your team when I was here early on, there's no recommendation that Evergreen was going to make that would have employees make less than they make now. Now, for the most part, all of the pay ranges that we created for the job titles that we have, we believe they're competitive to market, but they do result in some increases for positions. The tenure parity that I'm going to talk about in just a moment is one of the implementation options that we're bringing to you. And what that basically does is it moves employees into their new competitive pay range based on their years of service to Blanco County. So in a 30-year career, if I've been working here for 15 years, that's going to move me to the midpoint of my range. So you probably would ask me, well, why do we want to do that? It's just one implementation option. But what it does is it helps correct any instances of wage compression you might have, which wage compression would be, I just started working here today, you're paying me $16 an hour, and you've been working here for 5 years, and you're making $16 an hour. We're compressed. We're both making the same amount, even though we've been serving for a longer period of time. That can happen in a rapidly changing, rapidly increasing labor market. Salaries are going up. For you to fill an open position, sometimes you got to pay a higher wage than the person that was working here 3 or 4 years ago. And when you do that,
it kind of serves as a little bit of a demotivator. You know, the person that's been here 3, 4, 5 years or more is thinking, wow, this person's getting paid almost as much as me, and I've been working here this much longer. And we can have some instances of that, especially with deputies, we notice. So tenure parity would correct any issues of wage compression and make you market competitive. This was a collaborative process throughout. Your employees, supervisors, leadership helped us make some key decisions along the way. And the implementation, as I said a moment ago, would take place throughout the course of the fiscal year. It's not a we write the check today number. Next slide, please. Key recommendations. We're going to ask that you will adopt the pay plan. Now, there are some folks, obviously, like their maintenance tech right now is that position is paid around $18 an hour. But what we're looking at is establishing minimum pay rates, and your minimum hourly rate will start at $15 an hour. And that would be, if you're bringing something else in, that would be the pay plan is built out starting at 15 and it goes up from there. We're going to reassign employees to their market competitive pay grades, and then we're going to slot them into those pay grades. Next slide shows the recommendations, the cost. This is the money slide, and you'll see there's one implementation option called bring to minimum, and another one called tenure parity. Bring to minimum cost of $198. This is base salary adjusted for cost of living. So that $200,000 is included in the $400,000 tenure parity number. It's not in addition to. But what the bring to minimum does is that just moves employees into their new pay range. It brings them to the minimum of their new pay range. So let's say I'm an administrative assistant and I'm making $30,000 a year, and we decide, if you could go back to another slide, so I'm making $30,000 and the new minimum range is $32,000. Then to move me, to bring me to minimum of that new range, it's going to increase me from 30 to 32,000. That's all bring to minimum does, is it just moves employees to the minimum of their new pay range. Tenure parity would go one step further. Let's say that employee's been working for 5 years and you have another administrative assistant that's been working there for 15 years. It would move the one for 5 years into the plan 5 of those 30 years. It would move the 1 to 10 farther along, creating that separation between the years of service. We're really asking you to consider, because we know this is a big step. Right now you have annual salaries, right? So the first step is just to create this pay plan where you're creating new minimum and maximum salaries, and then use bring to minimum to bring employees into this pay plan. That's a huge step for you to make it market competitive, but then to also, you're going to create a new plan that you don't currently use. It would modernize your plan by creating those pay ranges. It lets employees know how they're going to be able to progress throughout their career, something that they don't necessarily know right now. And then you may want to consider a cost of living adjustment in conjunction with the bring to minimum. The tenure parity could be something you can do now. I just wanted to give you that as an option, or it could be something that you could look at in the next fiscal year. The bottom line, as recommended, if you go to the next slide, this is going to really modernize your pay plan and take you from a place where you have employees based on, really we don't have a definable metric, they pay different salaries, they could be in the same classification title. This will modernize your plan where you're going to create specific minimum and maximum pay ranges. You're going to have competitive salaries, and you're going to slot employees based on years of service. The job description update will be next once we get the job titles finalized and the commission approves our study findings. Then we will move on to create legally compliant job descriptions that match those classification titles for every position that you have here. We're also going to train your staff on how to maintain the system, and then we're going to write draft and final reports and present those to you as well, to kind of memorialize everything we've done here and present those study findings. So that's the whole thing. I'm going to do my best to try to answer any questions on that.
On the 4 recommendations, adopt, reassign, place, and what. If you get 4 things on your slide.
Yeah, well, adopt the pay plan, place the employees into the pay plan, and then you're gonna have to maintain it moving forward, but off the top of my head, I don't know what the slide says. Can you want to go back around about 3 slides before the implementation option slide? Yes.
Adopt, reassign, placing an employee in.
Placing them within their range and then selecting an implementation option. Do you want to do bring to minimum? Well, placing them into pay grades. That's where you're placing employees into a pay grade, but then once you place them in a pay grade, you have to move them into that pay grade. And you can do that based on bring to minimum or tenure period. Would be our recommendation.
Thank you for giving me some credit, but we both know and everybody in the room should know that it's all Mayor Shelley and everyone should help you with this and grow with this. How are we going to incorporate this into our budgeting, which is ongoing right now? And will be for the next 2 months.
Well, that's going to be probably more of a Shelley question, but I would say that you have the base salary adjusted for cost of living numbers. My 30,000-foot view, not knowing what your fiscal situation is that you would look at a small cost of living adjustment to where all employees get a little something to keep up with the market and the cost of living in some way. And then you do bring to minimum, which moves employees creates the new plan, it moves employees into the new plan and gets them at least to the minimum of their new ranges. If you feel that you can afford it, then I would do a small cost of living adjustment and tenure parity, which would take it one step further. It would give all employees a little bit of an increase, 2%, 3%, something along those lines, and then the tenure parity would solve any wage compression you have, and that would be a dramatic change from where you are right now. Absolutely.
Saying a lot of discussions about 5%.
So if you look at the total cost, then, if you're looking at 5% total, then I would definitely think you're again not knowing what your fiscal landscape looks like, that a 5% cost of living adjustment in conjunction with a bring to minimum is going to be an incredible change for the employees here and for your level of competitiveness in the marketplace. You're immediately market competitive with your pay ranges, and you establish a new pay plan with salaries where now employees can know how they can progress in those salaries. It's a difficult question to answer, Judge, without knowing the numbers behind what you kind of advocated earlier.
So,
well, I would say when it's in conjunction with your budget process, and I would say as soon as humanly possible. The market is continuing to move, and your competitive position right now is you're 20% behind market at the midpoint. We don't know how bad it is for tenured employees that should be more toward the max of their pay range that aren't there. So I would imagine, you're vulnerable right now. Your staff is probably weighing some of the options that they have available as Austin and San Antonio continue to compress your market. Housing affordability continues to increase where a commute may have been less desirable before. Now the amount of money that San Antonio and Austin are starting to pay in the marketplace, I would imagine is making them a little bit more attractive. So your competitive market has expanded, but your market position has degraded. So the win question would be as soon as possible.
If the court were to go with your plans, the end result is like a big matrix, right? For different ways at different levels of the road that they follow through the years.
In some ways, yes. I want to be careful that folks don't view it as a step plan type of matrix, Judge, but in some ways, yes. The first step is we're going to take the job titles, not people, but we're going to take the jobs and we're going to move those jobs into competitive pay ranges based on the market results that we got. So let's say we know that an administrative assistant should be paid between 38 and 58. we're gonna move that administrative assistant title into a market competitive pay range that you currently don't have. We established it between 38 and 58. Now we have to take the employees that occupy that job title and we have to move them into that pay range. And that's probably the matrix part that you're talking about.
Well, if it's not a step plan matrix, what happens in the future years for the cost of living adjustments? How does that affect whatever it is adopted?
That's a great question, and I feel like the best performing organizations that stay competitive, they do it two ways, or they have two factors. One is they should reward a year of service. But it's not just all about, yeah, you were able to stay employed another year, so we're gonna give you a raise type of thing, right? We also want to reward performance, hopefully tied to some outcome that you as policymakers have decided that you want the staff to achieve. So you have a tenure component and you have a performance component. The tenure component would be tied to more of a cost of living adjustment. Everybody gets that, whether they were a high performer or a low performer. If they're still employed, they're going to realize that cost of living adjustment. But the performance needs to be a range of, let's say, 1 to 3%. And if I'm a poor performer, I'm coming in late, not meeting expectations, I'm going to go through my annual review. It might recommend me for a personal improvement plan and maybe 1% at best. And if you're a high performer, you're coming in early, you're staying late, you're exceeding expectations, well, we're going to look to give you the 3%. That's how you can do a combination of two. You have some value placed on a year of service, but you have the other value placed on performance.
See, cost of living adjustments to me don't have to do with the type of employee you are. Crappy employees and great employees experience these guys and inflation at the grocery store, the gas station. You're really a crappy employee, maybe you want to not be working for us.
That's the performance piece. I think that in this labor market, probably jurisdictions have had to deal with poor performers for longer because even though Susie might not be getting the job done or Billy might not be getting the job done, it's better to have Susie or Billy than nobody in that position. You know what I mean? And because jobs are so tough to fill, maybe for a period of time they have folks on that maybe normally they wouldn't have. But yeah, it's a true statement. Cost of living affects everybody, whether they're great or whether they're not so great.
They want to put a cap on this or to some degree or Lisa?
I would say that we didn't do the letter.
I hate that.
I would
add that we chose not to include elected officials as part of this plan. So those compensation adjustments will have to be made outside of the plan.
Yeah, that's typically something that we would always do. Just don't feel as though we could weigh into that, unless specifically requested to do so.
And I would say I have the luxury of seeing all of the data and look at all of the spreadsheets. That honestly, we're not in as bad shape as I thought we would be. Maybe that would be disappointing to some people. But I really think those numbers kind of look bad, but they weren't as bad as I expected them to be going in.
So are we thinking, trying to just understand the process, are we thinking that something will be incorporated in what I file and the image line that the commissioners take?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I think, kind of process going forward, that now that we have the outline and we have the people and we know the process, that I think we individually, you and I meet with the different departments and look at their people and let them know that this is where your people are and this is what our recommendation is going to be.
Is there anything for the coordinating agreement of any kind that I'm not envisioning a budget workshop piece for this, but
Yeah, I don't think so.
Just a section of process. We get it put together, file, and then
That's probably the only thing that requires us to do a study, we did a study. So, I don't know, you know, you require to do a formal acknowledgement that the work required us to do is complete with the acceptance of the study findings. But other than that, I definitely wasn't anticipating a board action today necessarily. It was more of a presentation of what we did on your behalf.
As the years progress, will there be annual reviews from each employee?
That's up to you, that's a policy decision, sir.
I think it's a strong recommendation.
That's gonna be our recommendation, because otherwise, if we're gonna do ranges, there's no way.
Yeah, coming up with the price.
And otherwise, we're just gonna end up back where we are
Yeah,
now.
right, reviews, and that's the key one.
I don't have any high-performing clients that aren't doing annual reviews, I can tell you that. I mean, the best cities and counties around the United States, they make that an important piece of what they do. They define what a win looks like.
Does anyone want to submit a motion to accept this?
Well, before you do that, so you did mention that you excluded all elected officials. So what would be your thoughts on how would we encompass and include the elected officials to figure out kind of where they stand and jump to it?
We have the study numbers, and we can provide that to you. It's just not included in the numbers.
We know the market position is bare minimum, maximum market position for each. And that's been provided.
So I would like to make a motion to accept the salary survey information and request to continue on the building and plans.
Is there a second? Second. Mr. Riley, discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? So, Mr. Williamson, thank you so much for what you've done for us. Just, you're still available as we work on this, or are you done?
Well, I mean, you get a year of maintenance, so you're stuck with me for a year. If you have any questions or anything, for sure. But I still have work to do with, writing, like I said, that draft report, file report. I'll be working with Shelley along the way, and we're so grateful to have the opportunity to work with y'all. It's been a really good engagement, for sure. Thank you very much.
I put in a recess because the agenda was so long. I don't think I've ever done that before. And I know that expression about something about the mind only is for seeking a cure or something like that. I also don't think that most of the people sitting out there in the audience are here for a discussion of decals for our vehicles. So, we can, at your pleasure, we can do it one of a couple of ways. We can take our recess. I'm a little worried because there's a lot of motion, but we can take our recess, or we can keep moving on and we can adjust the agenda and start dealing with the maybe item 24 to get it items.
Is there a vote meeting for the last?
Did I not take it?
Yes, we did.
We did take a vote. Sorry. No,
So yes, Judge, I would recommend let's go ahead and move to item 24, so people don't leave and then the hospital has to scan them all back.
All right, taking up item 24 is discussion and action regarding the master plan of hospital subdivision for Russell County. And this, Second, yes. Thank you for that.
Your Honor, appreciate you guys having us here today. We put it on the minute.
Yeah, let's bump that up a bit.
Here?
Try
You might actually have to hold it.
Is that okay? There you go, appreciate it. Thanks for having me here, I appreciate it, I appreciate you putting it on the agenda today. It seemed floated around, there are several people here that don't really have an idea of what all themselves the concept is. If you don't mind, I'll slip into that for about a minute and a half, and I'll get back to one of the slides that pictures themselves as we listen to the project. First and foremost, the housing we're trying to do is based on economic growth. You guys have passed an economic growth policy a couple of years ago, and there's small business growth that is recast through small businesses and provide worker housing, we can help the companies that are here and be able to grow from that. Along with that, we were very diligent in not dividing the property into 75 homes and 75 wells and septic tanks. That also doesn't provide worker homes, so that's an echelon of people here that doesn't really support the economics in the same fashion. But we've been very diligently investigated ways which we do not make Swiss cheese out of the aquifer. We don't put a bunch of septic tanks back in that may filter down into the water system. We've gone through very stringent regular work in working with the Canyon Lake, as I mentioned before. I have them under contract and paying them their engineering for bringing in any line that was originally designed over 20 years ago. It comes up to 32, but we tie it back all the way into the 281, which again was a design from 20 years ago, which helps support future water needs for the community. I'm not just doing it up now, if it's a particularly large line that actually I'm spending funds for to be able to bring in. So we're not poking a bunch of wells, we're not grabbing the water to this sustained for already set up for the county of Langdon. In addition to that, I had with me Dale Yates, who was in charge of Canyon Lake Water for over 20 years. That's not what he's doing in Europe here today. He actually has patents and preliminary results from TCEQ for a sewer plant. It's not like the sewer plants we're using today. It's not like what's going on in Rocky Bay. This is a sewer plant that's built for a whole different technology. That actually the water that's coming out the back is not purple water. It's water you can drink. It's water you can really use. That's how we're going to get rid of our effluent. We're not doing it the way everybody else does. So we're spending lots of time and money to build better than what we've been building before. We've taken it to another level, which I believe is what everybody wants. They don't want to have the same old thing. They don't want to be trashing the aquifer. They don't want to be trashing the groundwater with all this effort. And in doing that, we're spending the money. We're going to put in over 14 miles of underground water. We're going to 12 miles of sewer pipe. When you start taking that on, you end up needing to have more houses divided up on to afford it. But even when we say that, it's not that dense, it's not as dense as Rocking Bay. It's 30 to 40% smaller than Rocking Bay. And none of the lots we have are as small as what's going on in Rocking Bay. It's not really the same thing comparatively. I understand people say high density, but if there isn't a lot that's smaller than a half acre, some people think having a half acre for their house would be very nice. They're on, you go close to Austin, you can have a tenth of an acre and shit on a $600,000 house. So that's not the intent. The highest densities that we're proposing was in the Senior Living area. And that is because they don't want to have a lot of money. They want to have something that's easier. We want to have a big block that you go. So that's the only area that's smaller density. And really that's just going to be set up as a community. Where all the areas taken care of for them, they're not out there with them over again. It's more of a separate HOA system in that. Now, the documents that you have in front of you, and the plans that are there, is just a master plan. And that is, it's not the preliminary plan. When we go through all of the steps of the preliminary plan, we're going to talk about every road. We're going to talk about every lot. We're going to talk about the size of everything, the density of this, the density. We get into all kinds of details that we work through and make multiple reiterations to it to get everybody pleased with what's going on in that. That's not what we're looking for here today. We're actually not trying to make a decision on the quantity of the roads and things like that. Now I know you guys have, there's a master plan, you got the book, development rules and regulations. It's a good book. Actually, I like it. There's a couple of things I can show later. Actually, doing things with heart for the developers there as it relates to trees and things like that should be protected. And it's good, but it also limits. It actually defines significantly what the developer's responsibilities are, but it also defines very clearly what the capacity is of the court and how much you can control it. It goes both ways. Bottom line to it is today, is what I'm looking for, is we're looking for the approval of the master plan. But again, the approval of the master plan really is based on, very simple, section 202. And there's 10 items of what the drawing is supposed to look like. And in that, it doesn't even say I have to put the roads in, but I have. We've done some things so that you guys can get used to what our intent is, where we're trying to go. It doesn't mean that that's locked in at this point. That is locked in through preliminary plan and those components. The other thing that I asked you to do today was to read things that were, the following documents shall be submitted. Those are items are submitted, but they're not done. They're part of the same thing. The roads aren't done. The proof of ownership, we've discussed that before with the court. In section 203, it says that I may actually represent the current owners. And in section 203.14, it says the recorded deeds come with the preliminary plat. What's this? The other item that asks for it to be submitted is the traffic impact analysis, which I have created one and given to the court. But frankly, I don't agree with it, and I don't think Charles is either. The first time I met, excuse me, Mr. Riley, the first time I met him was my concern, and going back to your predecessor, we went out there and we drove Cox Road to see what the heck it is and what the current problems are. There's obviously current problems there now that I haven't contributed to that we need to address. Plus, any kind of additional traffic and what that would do, it needs to come to be addressed. And we went down to the bridge and Paul told us about how it got put back in right away after a big flood, and where it stands today and what it would take to fix it up. Those are all very valid things. And I'm not here to ignore any of that or say that's not my responsibility. But we can't decide today how does this road align? What is the width of the road? What do you do with the bridge? That's going to be a process we're going to work through. That's a process during the preliminary plat and getting to the final plat. That's the point of all those steps and the rest of the book. Today, all that I'm asking for is that you guys acknowledge that I have submitted the master plan requirements for the section 202 accurately. That's all I'm asking for today. I'm not asking for how do we like this and what this. Because frankly, we don't know what it all is yet. Because we haven't gotten to finish designing it to know what it is all about or what the final densities are. I don't know. I've made assumptions for you and I've made some commitments and got them right. The third thing that I was actually asking for is a wash in accordance with section 205. And I've given several documents into the court. I've given the letter of intent between I and the Canyon Lake and copies of the checks I've given for the running engineering, all those things. But there isn't any way for anybody to finish a war until you're in the preliminary plat and you know the sizes and the lots and the shapes and the easements and all that stuff and where they're going to run. You don't get down to the completion of it. And that's why in two sections of in the Water 205.1 it says there's an exemption. It should be provided with a preliminary plan. And then the other thing kind of comes into terms. In section 35019 of the state, the Water Availability Commission, you guys can create a request for more based on just making sure that you have safe, sustainable water within your county. In this circumstance, actually, I'm not asking for the county's water. I'm bringing water in from 7 miles down the road from a different aquifer. So it doesn't really fall into the requirement of today, but yet I gave you all that information anyway, so you can see what direction our intent was. So we're not intending to come and complete your long-term water. Because I knew from the beginning that would be a start. Same reason why I didn't invite it and say, hey, I'm gonna put in 75 new wells, because frankly, you guys don't need 75 wells either. You know? So, I have an idea today what we're doing and where we're headed with the taxation and stuff. With the worker housing in these houses, these folks aren't gonna have ag exemptions. They're not gonna have the homestead exemptions. There's going to be a tax base that's going to support the long-term people that have been here for every minor commission. In addition to that, is that if the development itself, the roads, the paving, the dirt, represents $30 million of local influx, that's a wonderful amount of sales tax for you folks, right? $10 million of dirt work, $10 million of asphalt. It's a lot of roads over here. So there's benefits to do in that regard as well. Right. I didn't think that they were qualified for and some of that. I have to look at your typical thesis. You're saying everybody's qualified for that? Everybody is citizens.
My bad, okay. But I know they won't be able to do the agricultural exemption, which the vast amount of the county does. Yes, sir.
Questions?
So, start.
Feel free.
All right. Let's go a little bit. Let's start out by saying that I grew up in Blanco. I grew up on 165. When I was a kid growing up on 165, we used to actually go out there as kids and play Fort Spring on 165. I have a hard time walking across 165 now. I guess the next one to get across there. Then we used to go down Cox Road and hold on to the bumpers of cars in August and slide across that bridge because of the overflow of the water, and there was a little green slime on there that allowed us to do that. In the past, it all started probably when I was in my late 20s. Rivers, down. I understand you're not bringing water from Blanco. You're bringing Canyon Lake, which also supplies the city of Blanco, which they have the authority to cut that water off. Now, we're sitting there with 1,100 homes sitting on Cox Road that doesn't have water in the river. And all of a sudden, we have another year like we did last year, the past 2 years, and they shut the water off. What are we going to stand in that? That's a huge problem, water. Now, like you said, we talked about the road. That road probably doesn't support what goes across the road now on a daily basis. My wife is not able to drive that road every day because she works anyway. And she has been run off that road several times. People pass me on that road. And so now we're going to put approximately on build out. I'm not talking year one, I'm not talking year 5. On build out, we're going to put approximately about 300 cars on the road. With the addition of the people that are coming here in that time. How are we going to widen that road for people to drive up and down and get? There's a spot from before you go across the bridge, it's head north, all the way almost to 165, where it's pretty much just one lane. Going across Scout Guards, going across the bridge. How are we gonna try to get folks to use their lane to widen that road? We can put wider bridge in there, we can put more, wider cattle guards in there, because there are people that actually still use cattle guards on that road to move their livestock from one side to the other. Let's just worry about those two right now. Let's worry about water. Let's worry about the road before we get in.
Going to reply to that? So even if I don't develop that, you have a current issue with that road. Right? And because the traffic is out coming from outside your county, and you're using it as a cutoff, as you guys demonstrated, it's gonna be big trucks that are coming through there, just coming through. That's beyond me, right? That still means that these type of issues have to be addressed even now.
Exactly, but your proposal for another 300 cars on that.
But along with, one of the things that I do have, I am fund the road that needs to be fixed. Because I'm stepping out to come and do portions of that work for all that work. I'm stepping up to do those portions of work you currently don't have the funding for, you already would attack the issue.
Are you assuming you're willing to redo Cox Road to the county's preference?
I wanna say yes, but we don't know what it looks like yet. But when I originally met us correctly, and Paul, we took a drive to say, okay, I need to probably put a turn lane here, I need to probably put a light here, I need to do that, and we walked through where that would head to. But obviously, there's folks here with land and boundary that all be part of that, they just can't say, oh yeah, blast it through, and that's what that original median drive down the road was.
And you've probably seen the piece of the statute that allow county to require transportation infrastructure contribution.
Absolutely.
And to approve final plats conditionally. Conditionally, you have to do it what we agreed.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I started off that was one of the biggest issues. And in fact, one of the comments that I made to the commissioners was, if I'm selling one of these homes here, and these people are coming out and they're getting stuck in traffic, or they think that slowing down on 32 doesn't have a lane to turn in, I wouldn't want my kid driving the car to my house and feeling it was in danger. I'd want to have a better thoroughfare that felt safe. And I think that when we're selling homes over there, we have to create a safe thoroughfare for everybody involved. That's why I started right off the bat with looking at what we could do there. And I haven't not given up on potentials of additional land and egresses directly on 32 in that direction. And when I farther it down, because I wanted to see where we were heading today.
Yeah, Dave, every time I talk to you, you're always looking at 32.
Yes.
Your plan, your study, everything is based off of everybody in that subdivision coming out and turning to go 32. What is it, 3,500 feet? Is what you're planning on contributing to. How about the other direction? You haven't even done a traffic count on 165 or 32. I think you'd be surprised at how many people come into off Cox Road off the 165 side, off of the Austin side. Either going to be living there, committing to Austin, or coming back. That includes a lot more contribution to head that direction across the river safely and to head the other way. I'm talking several miles on top of 3,500 feet that you're talking about. Every time I talk to you, and I appreciate your offer, whatever the amount was, I don't know what that amount was to contribute to it. I know how far that goes, not very far. So you brought that up to me every time, but you always seem to turn your back on the other direction. It's a big part of that subdivision, going out the other way and coming back from that. So that's something that I think you ought to seriously consider.
I totally understand and agree with you.
Why is it part of our conversation?
Okay. Let me answer.
Yeah, sure.
Originally from the drive, I threw out there $250,000, $300,000, just trying to show you I was willing to put money forward towards however you want it, and it said, however you guys wanted to use it towards the road. I was like, why don't we just put some dollar amount in there so you know that I'm serious about supporting you in the road? And then it came back, no, we want you to do the traffic analysis. So my civil guy, TXT, hired this gentleman. I've never talked to him, never seen it. I gave you guys a report 2 days off the press. I haven't even gone through the whole thing, where I now see he did exactly what he said. He only went one direction on it.
You didn't know that? You didn't hire him?
I did not know that. TX2, the civil engineer, reached out to several different parties to try to hire somebody because they were out. It took almost 2.5 months to get him to respond to it because they're busy, they didn't want to do it. So we found somebody who did it. I didn't create the criteria. We gave them everything we gave you guys for looking at the plan. And that's what he came back with. And that's in the beginning of my speech, I said, I don't necessarily agree with that thing, and that's what I was agreeing. Okay, I didn't agree with the report. And I don't think that that's what we're gonna do today now. It doesn't even have the turn lanes that I originally wanted to put in off the 32, it doesn't. So, yeah, I spent $20,000 on a third-party report, as the court asked me, so I really didn't get the damn thing that any of us needed. But even if I had it, even if it was better, we were gonna solve the overall traffic today. So even if the report was much better to your liking and to my liking, we weren't going to solve all the traffic issues today. That wasn't the intent. The intent was that we're trying to move forward in good faith. We're providing third-party recommendations. I understand that, but I'm not going to do the same thing. What if the people are driving from the other direction going to the new subdivision? They don't want to go down around the Wayne Road. They don't want to drive to work down there. then all of my efforts of building the homes is a waste of time too. So I totally recognize that, both sides are not trying to, the argument about it, said it's not going. I think that we can't solve it one day though, because you're saying, there's folks that own some of that land and they don't want to touch it. I get it.
Can I go back to the water situation? Okay, please.
When I asked you about contributions for the roads, I guess it wasn't specific enough, because I meant all the way to both state highways. I didn't mean in one direction. So is your answer still the same, that you're open to?
I don't know if we're gonna put a bridge in, like you guys just finished up the way that Paul did, or if you're gonna put a bridge in that's 4 lanes elevated at 50 feet. I don't know what the final design would be. Can I put a road in that meets your current standard right now? I believe, yes. Once everybody gets done making their opinion of it, it ends up being 3 more miles longer than it is now. I have to limit myself on the answer. I really want to say, yes, I'm putting the road in for you. Okay? But I don't know what the road looks like right this second. So I have to caveat somehow.
You just, let's leave this area of water, but let's just be, I want to just make sure we're clear. You understand that we're, the county, are looking to you to improve, to make the improvements on Cox Road if this development is going to get approved.
Yes.
Wow, yes, because you're building a community bigger than the city of Black. You look at the number of people that are going to go versus the residents of the city.
I understand the motion, and the recommendation, 40% higher density than I'm going to give it. Not the first time that's happened.
They're on 2.
Pardon me?
They come out on 2, they front 2. There's a little difference right there. The other side on the water, I talked to you in one of our get-togethers. You had mentioned that you originally wanted to start, when you start building homes in there, you were going to build up to 250. Then you brought it back later in the conversation to 200. But you were going to start there running off from a well, weren't you? And you were going to take that well, and then later on you were going to build a standpipe, a water tank, to supply up to 250 total. That gives you the opportunity to bring your water line in as you're doing this. As you're building this subdivision, you've got people tapping a well that you have in existence already. You plan on using this well for up to 250 homes before you go to the water system. Was that part of the conversation?
So the conversation we had, sitting in his office, what's the time frame? How does this all evolve? And we said, well, the water line, depending upon what it takes to get the right of ways, including whatnot, may take a couple of years, 2, 3 years to get done. Don't know. It could happen in 6 months, it could take some time. They've been engineering for 6 months now. I hope they're farther along with that and we can be moving more diligently. The water line would be coming in, we actually go past, we head down past our location. But in addition to that, the elevated tank, even if I had the water line in and done, Candy Lake was saying it would be 150 or 200 houses, could be built off it before they would require the overhead tank. That was their requirement back to me, because they're having to put in a 3/4, $750,000 overhead tank.
It's part of the plan.
It's part of the plan, but I think part of their overall plan is it's not going to be utilized just for me, because we know that the folks in that community have some trouble with the amount of water pressure they have right now, and they could backfeed them, and they could backfeed them if there were issues immediately off of our tank. So I'm building it, but it's not just for me. It's going to be for the surrounding area.
You get out there,
stipulating that you don't buy. Didn't say
you get out there 250 homes and they haven't brought the water line. So you stop the operations and wait, or do you continue building houses and add them to your water system until they bring you water?
No, you guys said that was unacceptable to you, so I've taken it off of the table, which means I can't get the houses started until I get the water line started. And again, it goes back to that, which we're having the whole board and the TCEQ reports. I need to go through, I have to see the final reports from Candy Lake. I have to present them to you. You guys have to agree to them. I don't know all of them, whether there's stipulations. I was hoping that Tom would be here today. He accepted the invite, but I don't see him here in the room. So he can speak to it directly that we still need to work through all that and where that line is and where it comes in and who has future control over what part of it if you needed it, and all that stuff. There's more to that.
That would take I can only imagine the county would require you to do a water study on the web.
Yeah.
And on a triangulation or whatever. And I was just wondering, we have the president for water district here, if you've been in touch with, if y'all worked out that plan, or
We got together.
We visited one time, yes, sir. Trying to remember some of the details of you're talking about using an existing well to provide water?
When we're doing the roads or building some of that stuff, we have some wells that exist right now.
Well, I thought Mr. Weir said that it was to provide water for 250 houses.
I had that conversation with them, and he said that that'd be acceptable. I haven't moved forward with anything like that since.
Well,
right now, I've just been continuing on the conversation with Henry Water and trying to expedite it when they get started.
There's some issues about the water well that the commissioners probably need to know about. Is that if he's going to serve more than 15 connections, it's going to have to be certified by the TCQ as a public water supply well. That well that I'm thinking is probably the one you're talking about was not drilled as a public water supply well. It'll have to be gone through the TCQ approval process for an existing well. It'll have to get an engineer sign off. I've seen this take anywhere from 6 months to over a year to get this through the TCQ. I wasn't talking about it, that's what I'm trying. I've been accused of talking about it. So this is going to be an issue. It's going to take a while to get approval to provide water to people. And that well, as I recall, is one I think about, takes about 20, 25 gallons a minute. That's going to take a lot more water than that to provide water for 250 houses. The TCQ requires 0.6 gallons per minute per connection for a public water system. That's 150 gallons a minute for 250 houses. So we're talking a lot more than just one well here. And so I think you're correct. It's going to have to go through a water availability study like we've seen other subdivisions do if there's going to be any wells involved. And I'm just not sure how much water is out there. We've got wells out there, maybe half a dozen, make anywhere from 10 to mostly 25 gallons a minute or so. There's one well that makes 50 gallons a minute. It's over near Cold Springs on that little old branch that runs through there. That's just one well.
would part of that study be collective impact of all the subdivisions that are already around? That would be part of that study, would it?
Yes, Commissioner, as you'll recall, the subdivision requirements on the water availability study, it will show the impact of pumping at the edges of the proposed subdivision. And there'll be setbacks too for property lines that have to meet our district rules. For instance, if you've got a 100-gallon a minute well, it's going to have to be set back, I think it's 750 feet from any existing well, and I'm trying to think what the property line is. I think it may be 750. I'll have to get, we have a matrix on that. We rarely have any 100-gallon minute well, so it's kind of escaping my memory. Yes, but there, basically, you're correct. There needs to be some studies done on this, and it's all going to take time, whether it's water pipes being laid from Canyon Lake, or whether it's a DCEQ certification of public water system well, or doing the water availability study. It's all going to take time, and it needs to be done.
These are homes already being supplied on this way.
There's one home that's out there that really is not very happy with this out there.
A lot of homes out there.
Ma'am, this is, it's not a public hearing. You do? Okay.
Oh, thank you.
So, let me ask you,
Yes.
because I'm asking this because most of the information I have is third hand or do you have a commitment from the Canyon Lake Water Supply?
Yes.
What is the nature of that commitment?
I wish Tom came, that's what I asked. So I said, I wish Mr. Hodge had came today, so I asked him to come so we could relay that directly.
Why don't you relay it?
Yeah, we spent quite a bit of time together. water usage or get into some portion of that. I have a letter of intent to use that. They're working through.
I got a question. So I'm said new water source. Everything I've heard is said Canyon Lake. Is a new water source not Canyon Lake?
Yes, it is Canyon Lake. But he is like, when he gets into the reports and they're having to justify where the water's coming from, for their overall expense for all of Canyon Lake, they have to show where all those resources are coming from as well. So he has resources that he has available that he could allot me. And he did that before he was going to shake hands with me and take my money to the engineering and write me a letter.
Curiosity, have you noticed, kind of like Michael County, have you noticed the wild expansion and growth around Canyon Lake?
It seems to be everywhere, yes.
And have you read that the city of San Angelo has made some kind of a deal to buy Canyon Lake water?
I know that Canyon Lake Water is actually owned by Hellback Bigger Higher subsidiary. I didn't know they'd break that part off to San Angelo. It's a national company actually at this point that owns it.
How many times can you sell the same amount of water? That's I'm beginning to wonder.
I understand.
You don't have the right way completely apart.
I don't have it inked. They're working on it. And it again, it goes back, I should have brought the drawing today, I brought it last time we met. It showed where the water line was originally designed for the 32 back 20 years ago.
So you don't require the property.
It actually is in the right away of the highway of 32 is where it's drawn.
Well, some of it is, I know some of it's not.
There's a couple other small pieces that no, I have not attempted to acquire, because I didn't know if it was worth my time. That's the intent of the master plan, which again, we're not gonna solve the water problems before a master plan gets approved, right? It's not intended to. The same with the road. We're not gonna have a final platted road before we get a master plan. If the master plan is just the first checkbox, so then they go and okay, now I need to buy that other piece of land, or I need to do those other things to extend the money in a way that we know they're all heading in that same direction.
And you have these in the state right away.
I'd have to pass on by with the elevation of that. I mean, I thought so, but I'm not going any further. That's why I hired him to go take care of it.
So you don't know.
I did not know that answer.
You don't know. There's an iron cost.
Yes, there's actually, I think it's 4.5 on the highway 32 that I did. A lot of the water line and stuff I'm referring to is all underground that I could put in.
So the 4 miles on 32 and the rest is crossing private property.
And it would within our property, yes.
It's been acquired.
Yes, some of that has been acquired.
Some of it.
Yes, sir.
What's your timetable for, what do you see for this development to look like a development? How does the people live there?
I think it actually is years, because like the water, getting it going and getting the road, getting the stuff going, you're not moving anybody in there for 18 months, 2 years, so I was talking. And then like Rock and J, what it's taking Rock and J 20 years to build out. That doesn't happen overnight. None of this process happens overnight.
Do you have on your master plan anything carved out for any kind of, what do you have carved out for public resources?
For parks and things like that, you're referring to, or?
Any public resources?
Yes, there's quite a few of them that are labeled as parks. There's a large area where I'm looking at putting in like 10 soccer fields and some baseball fields, things like that, right now, which is a grazing land. In addition to that, because of the affluents coming off so clean, we're gonna put in a lake that's almost 4 acres and have jogging trails around that, and some venues around that, like a wedding venue and things like that. For public, or you could use it and rent it out for your party or something like that. There's a lot of the jogging trails interconnected at all the sides.
Is there any land set aside for schools?
I haven't seen anything set aside for schools other than the preliminarily running through bus routes and turnarounds and how to get them in and out of that.
Is there any land set aside for houses of worship?
Pardon?
Churches?
That's right, I've not set aside. I have 16 acres to set aside for commercial, for whatever we would put in there. Part of that actually had gone down and talked to the fire chief and the fire marshal about potentially setting some of that aside for the EMS station. But as we said, in the master plan, the actual roads and actual lots aren't defined until the preliminary plan. This is just this is what our guess of what makes developments allow. And that's what we sit here and go through with you folks, and one during the approach to the preliminary plan, hey, you need to get in this there, okay, we don't like the way this cul-de-sac turns, really. You have this other emergency egress you talk about going through here, we work through all of that. That's the point of that whole process, which is the rest of the book I have in front of me.
Well, Mr. Dees, have you found your secondary exits?
Yeah.
You've already got approval to do that, I mean, that would be something that would be important to have with, have your secondary exits. Can you tell me, do you know how much of that is under floodplain?
None of this under floodplain.
None of this on this property?
No, sir.
It's under flood?
No, sir.
What can you tell us about tier 3 development, LLC?
That's me.
That's you.
And I'm more than willing to give you my full dozen in your honor. I've been here, I did some housing in Eagle Lake earlier in the 90s, I did some housing in Sense. I've actually sold bonds to the state to fund those and turn all the housing over to those communities for their worker housing. Since then, I actually been all over the country. I was vice president of operations at Tudor Permine, which is one of the biggest companies in the country, and been personally responsible for building over $20 billion in construction.
What does tier 3 development do in Missouri, in Kansas?
Nothing. 3-tier development that my LLC is, that should just be in Texas, there's nothing in Missouri, Kansas.
I got one more thing to say. That is, I was elected to be the voice of the constituents that I represent. And people that were here today, I think their voices were loud and clear.
My ask of the court is whether or not I have properly filled out the documentation as required by the state and local codes.
Your position is that having the option to purchase property or some other sort of mechanism, legal mechanism, giving you the right to purchase property qualifies you as the owner under the statute. Is that right?
Under the statute, I think we probably have that in front of you.
Well, the statute says, the statute uses the word owner. And I'm asking, is there some property that you, I don't think that we walk across the street just giving your name on it yet. And I'm just trying to make sure I understand your position that you think you have standing to claim to be the owner because you have some sort of option or some other right to exercise.
Yes, under 203, 140, paragraph 5, an owner may elect to have a representative in front of the commissioner, county commissioner's court, which is why each of the owners sign a letter in front of you representing that they're allowing me to speak to you on this behalf.
So, okay, I think that language you read means that you become the agent of the owner, but you think you're using that representative of the owner a little more broadly. You want to step in the shoes of the owner. Right? I mean, this is your development, it's not the people who live out there now.
Okay.
Right? You say, okay,
right.
That's not wrong, because I don't know that. Are they developing it? are you in some sort of cooperative?
It hasn't gotten that far. Later in the documents, 203.4 says recorded deeds are required for the preliminary plat, which it doesn't require recorded deeds of ownership for the master plan.
Well, I guess I need some education. And it's our rules we were reading from, so we have to understand our rules. Because I kind of thought it went like somebody like Mr. Schultmeyer over there, who's an engineer, to come and speak on behalf of our neighbor that was wanting to develop this property, but it was still not open to develop the property. And I think you're in this shoot shit. Are you?
No.
Well,
Let me ask you, what, on the agenda, what are, let me ask you, are you asking?
I'm not asking.
No, I'm not sure.
Mr. Riley's asking.
You're asking.
I'm just asking whether or not you concur that I met all the documents requested for preliminary plan. That's it. It's not water, it's not roads, it's none of those finalized today. I assume that they do. It's not even ownership. I'm not trying to prove any of that. I'm just trying to say, here's the master plan, I checked all your boxes. Now we start down the path of this. And yes, there's still plenty of hurdles to get through for the success of the project. It's just the first step.
You've asked your commissioner to put that on the agenda.
Yes.
So, but you did say preliminary plan, but we're talking reference to only a master plan, correct?
This is just a master plan, period. That's it.
What's the conversation been like with the city of Blanco? You know what I'm asking, because you're basically duplicating Blanco in size.
I know the mayor's got not spoken, I have not had to sit down and do them and address that.
Do you imagine, what's your concept of how it's going to affect the city of Blanco? As far as having 1,000 people right there?
I don't think it'll be anything like it was this weekend at the Lavender Fest, but it's over, this is over a 20-year belt. I think the town's gonna have lots of growth through Blanco and a lot of issues. Part of me having any much of an influence, obviously got the whole highway situation, the 281, and where that's gonna route, how that's gonna go around. I think Blanco, I didn't see me as the number one issue that Blanco has right now for the influx of people coming from the other communities. I could be wrong, but I think that was their biggest concern, knowing that down the road before the first person ever. Right now, we started some construction activities, it'd be, gas and lunches and things like that. It'd be good for the local markets.
The construction impact on Cox Road would be 20+ years.
Yeah.
Okay, the rule that you're reading about development plans is what your master plans, where,
Which part of the master plan itself?
our
202. You go to 202.130 actually starts the list of what's required for you to turn in for this. additional documents. The one above that 130 is the actual 10 items that's on the piece of paper, the actual holdout.
I think one option, one option is, take up the master plan, and another is no action. Option one, take it up, some sort of motion, option two is no action. At this time. Is not a motion. We'll move on. So the next question would be, care to take a recess or?
Nobody minds, I'll keep going.
You want to take up the subdivision regulations? Thank you, sir.
You want to straighten it up, or you want to you want to put a real?
Well, I think a lot of these people, while they come on those various, they seem to be a fair amount of subdivision. Yeah, let's take 5 minutes. Don't anybody get too excited, don't need to go through the elevator, don't go through the elevator.
So it's no action, is that what you're saying? See, you'll see.
So that one was funny. First, yeah, I was doing a little bit of research on that to find it last night.
How about just in time for break?
Yeah, he's actually registered. Yeah. Still, I'm like, I'm like,
I was gonna sneak past you here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My mom lives First Ranch. So my mom lives at Preston First Ranch. And my property backs up to my fence line is.
Didn't do anything.
They're not going.
I would say that it's worth it. I have. So you're safe for now.
And I'm like, so he's like, that's
Sure.
He's like, you can hear
Trying to come in.
Yeah, I don't want to, especially if it's
I haven't seen someone try to get a copy
Yeah.
The upgrade to the county road. It comes off the state highway. He's got to walk around county road.
I'll tell your husband. No.
You can hold this county. They get in the master plan.
We get to see all our house right now. I knew you. I helped out. No.
I'm the one. Anyway.
I love it. I like the look. Not ready. Satisfied.
It's funny because
That's the spirit of
So it's not like everybody else is trying to place over jobs. Somebody just wants to take.
And those are the yeah. Yeah. So it's not even that answer.
I tried to ask me something. No, we just the notebook, the movement. You got to go back in. Right, exactly. So you guys are, I'll try to keep y'all as informed as I can. Oh, yeah, that's good.
This big of the city department. Yes, today especially feels Canadian. It doesn't matter. I know, he probably does not have
I'm hungry.
That is lunchtime, isn't it? All right, let's go. They took no action.
Which means it's not dead.
No, it's not dead.
Well, I can tell you some things that I've lived in multiple states. So why is he the COO for a molecular home manufacturer hospital? He doesn't have any skin in this game yet, and he has no professional presentation. I don't know what
Tier 3 developer. His name, tier 3 developer.
Yeah. And all of those things have been filed in the last 16 to 18 months. He hadn't been in this area that long.
He's enough things to develop.
And when I heard his tone and his dismissiveness, I just don't like
He's pretty slick.
it. I mean, don't come in and be arrogant. I don't like it.
All right, let's go. Have a good day. Hey, Paul. Anyway, glad you put the car in front of
Jack Ryan, yes, sir. This is Judge Bray. Right?
Very into it.
Yeah. All right, let's do it.
All right, let's reconvene. I've had a request to back up a little bit and try to get some things out, so we're gonna start back up on item 13. And before we do, all right,
Do you want me to stop? Judge.
Yes, sir. Just wanted to publicly welcome County Judge Charlie Donovan and his wife Trina from Andrews County. They've been camping down at Blanco State Park and had nothing better to do on Tuesday. At any rate, don't get too close to them because you don't want to glow in the dark because they have a low-level radioactive waste facility in Texas. But other than that, thank you so much for what I'm just talking.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
But before we leave,
Yes.
I'd like to say that Charlie and I are in the leadership academy together. So thanks for coming, Charlie.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We'll see y'all later. Thank you.
Item 13, Southern Health Partners.
I move that we authorize county judge to sign the health services agreement with Southern Health Partners.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Eager, discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 14. Excuse me. Bill commissary fund.
Make a motion to authorize the county judge to accept and sign, the Central Square Pass completion report for quote Q 42,691.
Is there a second? Second. Mr. Riley, discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 15, purchasing decals for the three explorers and the fall.
I make a motion to approve approval of specs and purchase of decals for three 2022 Ford Explorers as outlined in the capital equipment section of the 22-23 budget.
Is there a second? Second. Mr. Weir, this time. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Mr. Flores, are you in the room?
Sir.
Okay, come up. So, this action item is, requesting your authorization to select Ruben Flores as the reserve deputy for constable, reserve deputy constable in precinct 1. Mr. Flores, say it?
Yes, sir, I just wanted to say that 32 years from law enforcement, getting that door retirement, and still feel that need to serve. I love Lakeland County, and right here in North Carolina since 2007. It's a small constable's office, I reckon it's a small agency, and looking forward to the opportunity to continue to serve.
Where do you reside?
What's that?
Where do you reside?
And in your office.
Any questions? Any motions?
I'll make a motion to authorize the selection of Ruben Flores as the third deputy constable for Blanco County Precinct 1 Constable's Office.
Any second? Second. Commissioner Black, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Congratulations, sir. Sorry, it took so long.
Good luck.
Item 17 involves internal agency between the sheriff's office and court officer.
I move that we approve the non-24-hour terminal agency agreement between the Blanco County Sheriff's Office and the Blanco County Precinct 4 Constable's Office.
Is there a second? Mr. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Item 18. Whether or not we are going to authorize Capcom to update our county road inventory for 2023.
So there's just one correction on there in reference to county road inventory. On the top line, just need a misspelling. But with that correction, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the Capcom to update the 2023 county road inventory on behalf of Blanco County.
Is there a second?
I'll say.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Item 19. 19. Plant Ranch Road Land Division, Mr. Eager.
This is a small section of land that fits the county order of acceptance that day for the it's land location affidavit of exception for the planning requirements. And they meet all the requirements, so I would like to make a motion to accept this partial plan division in Plant Road.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's at least no discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. Item 20. Recreation, hang on, let's do Red Bud Ranch, item 21.
Okay, 21, Red Bud Ranch, all page. Okay, I just drove through there yesterday, it looks good. I'd like to consider the final plat, Red Bud Ranch subdivision.
Are you moving to approve the final?
To approve it, yes, sir.
Is there a second?
I'll say.
Commissioner Weir, discussion.
So you said it looks good, you go for it.
Yeah, it's good, yes, and he's got road signs up, stripes, and road is paved, and that would just compliment him there. I thought it was good.
So
Looks real good.
we have not approved this final plat before.
This is, they've got me.
Say again.
Yeah, he's ready for the final plat, that's.
So, okay. So how does that pertain to the construction law? And the maintenance law?
It's not a road that is like this one.
there was not a construction company, because he was doing construction himself. So, anyway, that's one thing that is overlooked in this. So it has a maintenance bond, 2-year maintenance bond in place.
He hasn't sold any property on this piece of property, on this fact, has he?
What's that?
He hasn't sold any property on this, has he?
I've seen some under contract, but it's with the approval of this right here. That, they finished the contract.
Other questions? Concerns? Item 21. I was just getting to it. On item 21, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. 23, cleanup of that.
So, April 22nd, 2023, we had our annual trash off, and I think we did pretty good this year. We're kept it under budgeted a little bit, about $32 million it looks like, and then so our total expenses worked out to be $6,824, and through the sale of scrap metal and batteries and donation and tire fees, we ended up collecting $6,100, or $6,123. So, with that being said, about half of the tires that were on location and picked up and disposed of were at the county's expense because they were found on county roads and all that. So, we do charge for those tires when people bring them in, but this isn't giving permission for everybody to run out and throw the tires on the side of the road, but if you get thrown on the road, then they're gonna get filled out. But Councilman Fisher back there, who's turning red in the face right now and shaking his head, is doing a wonderful job trying to keep the county clean. And is doing some groundwork, got some cameras out there and everything, but in the day, we had a really successful trash.
Doesn't the company need to take any action on that, just for reports?
So can I make one request? During our conversations with this eclipse of 2024, the threat of a lot of people throwing trash out on the South Road is significant. So we can just make sure, and I know this is the 22nd of April, so don't keep it after that eclipse. That'd be great to help people dispose of their trash that they might pick up from illegal dumping. April 8th, 2024.
Oh, yeah, anyway, we always do it on the board.
I was just,
Yeah,
I just asked it, or I just said I would bring it up. So.
okay. We'll do that, please.
All right, I think that leaves us, besides the burn ban, we're talking about items 20 and 22, and I'd like to open it up this way. Commissioner Duesman has gathered various edits to the subdivision regulations, and Commissioner Eager has gathered some edits to the, proposed edits to the RV park tiny home regulations. And I think we should go through those. I think it's worth the discussion today, but I'm going to tell you that even if it's on my motion, I'm going to recommend that we bundle both of them up and that we vote to engage Allison Bass to completely review and revamp and recommend our a set of subdivision regulations to us. The reason for this is based on a conversation yesterday with our in-house in-house attorneys and our out-of-house attorneys, and subsequent conversations with a couple of attorneys and judges elsewhere. And if I have to go into detail, then I will need to go into executive session to discuss it. But bottom line is, I don't think we're in a position to approve what we have on the table. I do think it's worth the time to go through the discussion. So, anybody object to that plan? So we'll get to a motion to that. In fact, we can make a motion, I'll even make a motion at the start that we, that at the conclusion of today's review of these subdivision regulations and RV park regulations, that we employ the firm analysis task to receive them from us and review them, make recommendations, and provide us with a recommended product.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. Motion carries. So, with that said, I think it will be beneficial to the review if we discuss them and see if we are all on the same page about things. And I don't know, if anyone has a better idea how to do it page by page, let me know. My first concern is on page 4. There's a word with well, it's 101-170B, and it says operating regulations are subject to separate regulations. The property located, it's in perfect sense. But at the end of the sentence, it says that the property located in the county is under the jurisdiction of the county. I think the word only should be that the property located only in the county is subject to the jurisdiction of the county, as opposed so that it's clear it's not part of the ETJ piece.
Judge. I thought we agreed that if any of the subdivision extending out of the ETJ, that we had made an agreement with the cities to take to allow that jurisdiction to the city.
I think we've given that up yet, that very factor.
I am not sure we made a final decision on that.
Something else.
So your idea would be if the subdivision is mostly in the ETJ with a little of it outside the ETJ. Agreements that we have with Blanco and Johnson City ought to be that they regulate the whole thing.
Correct.
I think we have something in my precinct right now that the county precinct line runs right down the road in the city, EJ on the other side, and they took the whole thing. That's what happened. I spent period.
Oh, we had a governmental agreement already.
We have interlocals with both Blanco and Johnson City, and as of today, we will have it at Brown Mountain. And they give exclusive jurisdiction. I just can't recall about that piece we're talking about outside the ETJ.
The county is narrow. There was a large piece of property just south of Blanco that was in the ETJ, about, let's say, I don't know exactly the acreage, it was 500 acres or whatever. Then there was about 10 acres outside the ETJ in the county. So you would regulate that inside the ETJ, it would be the county, city rules and regs, which would allow 5,000 square foot or whatever. But outside of that, there would be 2 tracks. 2 5-acre tracks. Or 2 3 acre tracts or whatever. So it gets to where there's just a tiny piece out there that's really limited to the county, outside of the county, which allows septic tank and wells on it also, where it was brought into the city, it actually run water too.
Well, okay, that's not what our current B says on that page.
That's right. So she's fantastic.
So are you thinking we should eliminate B?
Oh, I think that we should say that if there's anything outside of the ETJ in the county, the city has.
And how do the rest of you see it?
Well, working with the city of Johnson City in the past, if it was in their EPK, they kind of pushed it off on us and said, here, your problem on ours.
I know, I'm aware.
I think we're gonna have to review our interlocal and compare how it looks with this provision and see what we can do.
Even if it had something that mentioned the majority of it, or whatever, majority of the subdivision was in the ETJ, and they would have the majority of it was in the county. Then what do? You come up to the ETJ line, and they take it from there.
But the subdivision we have on 281 that's adjacent to the city of Marble Falls, we allow Marble Falls to run with the whole project.
I remember that. So why not?
Allow opportunity too. And I think that's what the judge is saying.
Well, you're saying that the city gets it if any of it is, even if it's sticking outside of the.
It seems like that's what you were wanting.
That's what I was wanting.
Yeah, it doesn't say that now, and I think we have to submit it to House, that's that way, you know, so if there is a back.
That's why I brought it up, if you want to change it.
Seems that somehow it needs to be worded so that generally speaking, if you're signing in your local, that's the way it is, or even if we have signed in your local, we have a situation like this, another city from another county leads over, and we have the ability to do that, to give it to them.
And I can speak on a different scenario that's not as technically an ETJ, but Barnett County, we have subdivisions split between Blanco and Barnett County. And our rules actually increase the size of the road opposed to Barnett, so, it was beneficial for us to keep our rules in place.
I'm moving on, unless you have something else. 102, 100. It's blue line. What is the blue?
That's just the color I chose today.
And so that blue phrase comports with what I always thought the law was and what we were trying to administer. But now I'm not so sure. So I think it may be a question. There seems to be a question about whether the only place I find that language about you can't start selling lots is in subsection B of 232, talking about counties near the border. I'm not sure we have, even though we've been doing this since I'm table, I'm not sure we have that authority.
So that would be something that Allison could ask Allison about.
Yes. 102. Maintenance bond in 103, 107. This is a policy issue, and when I read it, I was thinking, I wonder if the commissioner said that 25% is good enough to cover maintenance. You're asking for 25% as security for maintenance of 100%. Basically, right? But you think that's, I mean,
Again, that might be a question for Mr. Allison on what the legal requirements can be.
Well, I think the legal requirements to be whether you, this is.
Whatever it says.
Suggestion call. What you all think ought to be, what it practically would take.
So would you want to increase that 50%?
I don't even have an opinion. I just identified it as something that I thought I would ask. If 25 is the right number.
Just trying to do the math. If you build a road that costs $1 million, and so you're putting a maintenance bond on for $200,000, is that correct?
Right, so the road's been built.
Yeah, and it's been built to spec.
To are now more improved specs.
And we're saying that for the next 2 years, they're responsible for keeping it up. If they don't, then we're gonna take the $250,000 and fix whatever is wrong.
And that's why I would raise the question, does that sound right? It might be.
Yeah.
Is 250,000 about the right mark to?
I would think that'd be sufficient.
Yeah, I would think so too. In fact, just go one step further, is that, before you release that maintenance bond, the commissioner should go out there with the developer and review the integrity of the road and see if it needs any repairs prior to releasing the bond. But what I don't see in there is how do you trigger to release the maintenance bond? What triggers that?
Expiration of time.
Just that who notifies?
Connie has a document whenever they fill out the maintenance form, which has done with me in the past, is she'll send me a calendar invite, so I know exactly when that maintenance form comes.
That comes from me. Okay, that's cool.
I've done it with every one that's on, that we currently have bonds for. Y'all, I have sent invitations to y'all.
Okay, fair enough. I had a conversation with someone.
Seems like if you would want to be released on the bond, it would be the application of the surety or the principal, but if we're doing this, somehow, that's fine. My next one is 104-120, the Kennedy division. The red line proposes to take it back like it was, which is a good idea because that actually comports with the statute. But the 4 or fewer, which is the language of the statute, doesn't seem to prevent the county from opening up beyond that if we want to. So it would be 4 or fewer parts, just the things that are listed there. And I want to suggest that we make it four or fewer parts, or 5 or more parts that are 10 acres each. Okay. So it marries what we were trying to do previously with, and I think that's legal. Did you hear that last joke?
No. I was just trying to get, because the 4 or fewer affects further down with the acre size.
And then on the 104-130, lots larger than 10 acres, I see we want to go to 60 feet.
Correct.
Well, that is how Kendall County is doing theirs right now. And then I added the lots larger than 6 acres. So if you're below 10 acres, then you're back to 250 foot. But 10 acres or more, you can go to 60 foot. And that was kind of what the information I was getting from our open meeting that we had that day, a lot of people were complaining about 250 foot. So I think that would benefit the developer as well, for the land surveyors, make a vision. Now, keep in mind,
we're talking family exemptions. You were talking family exemptions on that?
No, it's not technically under the family, it's under exemptions total.
So on these two, 130 and 135, I'm definitely going along with everybody. I don't get the, I must hear it differently, I guess, than some, but I don't get the sense from some comments that, people are excited about reducing, making it easier and easier, and the 60-foot road frontage is a good idea. But I also know that you all have had, comments to the effect that the 250 is problematic and causing us difficulty.
Well, I can attest to a workaround. What I've been seeing is they'll come down with a 60-foot easement along the fence line, and then they'll pop out to a 250-foot highway frontage, which is just crazy. But they're meeting the rules, so I can't.
But it creates a really
It does.
strange.
I move on to 195. And it's got that language about the affidavit of land location.
104, 195?
Yes, sir. Just to make sure, I'm still below, right? And the idea that I don't care for this land location out there, or does have it.
Well, so there's some changes I made in here that will make it easier on realtors and things of that nature. A land affidavit is basically explaining that you meet an exemption. So it's not, you qualify for an exemption, and that land affidavit will be presented straight to the commissioner of that precinct that applies to them, and the commissioner will be able to sign off then and there. And it's something that does not have to come through the commissioner's court. So it won't tie up any of their, closing dates or anything of that nature. It'll allow them to, hey, I'm dividing this land up, I meet the rules, I meet a rule for an exemption, and sign off on this, and then we move on.
I like that better than the report. I like the driveway out there.
And 104, 195 was based on cemeteries that I found, that we currently did not have. So I thought, well, I don't have an issue with it right now, but I guess in today's world, they might be more and more frequent. So they're coming up in other people's rules and regulations.
It requires public access, right?
I think in 107, 197, just below it, item 1B, it says landowner agrees to purchase a tract of land from an adjoining property owner. Okay. There's something about I never know that was confusing, but maybe it's not. And on the next page, page 4. What is part of 104, 200? Under item 3 is talking about an application submitted for an affidavit of land location. This is just general land location affidavit. This isn't our cemetery or anything else.
Well, it's just for an affidavit of land. This is just kind of gives, everybody's been asking, what does it consist of, and this is trying to.
Well, in 3 it says must be titled, document must be titled affidavit of land location and indicate the property owner shown on the deed records, the affidavit, land location, includes cover sheet, et cetera. Somewhere is, oh, here it is. I'm sorry, it's at the top of the page. The affidavit shall comply with requirements established by the Commissioner's Court. Where are those requirements going to be located? Is that what 3A, B, and 3A, B are?
Correct, that would be my assumption, it would be, just follow the rules of the information that's listed below.
And why do we want 8.5 by 14 paper? That's the size paper.
You can change it, we can change. That's documented in another county.
And the rest of the world, I think, likes. And when it says a cover sheet shall show a location map, what's that? That's location map, but is that a cover sheet?
Yeah.
I guess I still feel like Lone Ranger that there's 3 pages of red here, because it's all big, and it seems like an awful lot just to be exempted from by requirements.
I guess the idea and the concept kind of just to be, so we're aware of the divisions of land that are happening and making sure that they're meeting our rule, they're not developing an illegal subdivision of some sorts.
I'm not sure, I don't think there is a requirement for public hearing concerning subdivision rules. That question is still up in the air, and probably part of the submission to Allison Maps. There's a whole lot of public hearing requirements within 232, but not the actual subdivision rule adoption that I can find. And do we want to leave it in 105, 100, or put that on us and it's not required by law, or not?
You take it out.
And then at the top of that page, it talks about it, county engineer. Is that Bischoff or?
That would be Bischoff, yes.
Maybe some county's designated engineer, because he's not. He's not actually employed by the city.
No.
I go all the way to page 21, under the definition of street. Minor in nature, collector, arterial.
So this is stuff that Bischoff put in here to try to coordinate all of it together and make the pages work.
So it's a minor collector. I don't know, I work at that word primary. It says with the primary function of collecting and distributing traffic between the residential streets and county roads. Why does it have to say primary? Why can't it just say function of collecting?
In my mind, primary is a cut through or a throughway. Either where they're coming, ingress, egress, a nonstop, between the subdivision and each property or whatever. Yes.
So the reason I'm really happy that you all took no action earlier is because I'm on 202, which is all about plans for development master plans. And I think you're going to see a radical redesign out of Allison Grass. And I think we're best off leaving it alone until that happens.
Along with 203.
I hope somebody would have stopped along the way if they're guessing, because I'm just, on this.
So I can say that on 203, in another county, it is worded that it's not a requirement, it is a, more of a, in order to get, if you submit a preliminary plat, it helps you go through Commissioner's Court saying that we agree or disagree to X, Y, and Z. If they don't submit a preliminary plat, they go straight to the final plat. Then, if it was denied, then the fee would be assessed again. So being that Mr. Allison is going to be looking at 203, the preliminary plat, I don't know that we can allow or it's a requirement that we can put in there. It's a recommendation from the county to do that. With the recommendation being that if you provide a preliminary plat and it goes through court and they make changes to a preliminary plat prior to the final plat coming back, when the final plat is presented, if for some reason they don't meet a court link or something of that nature and we deny it that day, then they have to pay fees again coming back. So it's
I like the preliminary plat, gives you a pause to look at it, possibly do some changes before you get to the
right, but I think Mr. Allison is going to tell you that the statute doesn't allow you to require it. You can ask for it, but you can't require it.
Yeah, just bring it to you, man, it's done. If you meet that pause, I don't be able to authority, stop, take a look at it, do whatever changes.
You don't, that's the whole point.
Don't have the authority, so never mind.
The whole point is you put all the burden on everybody, whether it's the court, the staff, or the developer, or the realtors, or whoever, put all the burden up front. It's all got to be put together right the first time, final. However, as he's pointing out, if somebody wants, we cannot require, we can't even ask, but we can. But if somebody, well, we can, I think we can have a process that if somebody wants to voluntarily present a preliminary determination, we can do that. As far as fees, we had that discussion yesterday. There's a lot of things.
And if it fails, it fails. However, they have to read it on.
Seen very few of them, preliminary plat states that don't do something.
Agreed.
I think we covered that in development. Last year in education. Then that too.
Tiny homes, RV parks.
Okay. Yeah. There's been very little change since we've had the hearing on it. I've gone through and corrected all my punctuations and everything that, I failed to, I'm one of those kind of keeps rattling, keeps going with no commas or anything. But there is one thing that I have added to the verbiage is the, put in here, a traffic analysis study shall be required for each RV and tiny home park. The analysis will determine if improvements are to be made to the county road at the development expense. Maybe it should have down but that being said, that's everything else is the same as it was at the hearing. I mean, at the hearing, I added the class A RVs, class B RVs, class C RVs, public campers, definitions of all of those, tiny homes, definition, all of them 600 square foot, which a lot of people live in tiny homes. But that's was what I read. I looked up a lot of information statewide and nationwide, and I came up with it's anywhere from 450 to 600 square feet is what they're recommending.
But you're saying it can be over multiple levels?
Yes, tiny homes. Any home that falls under 600 square foot, which may be built on either a mobile platform or a permanent foundation. Tiny homes built on a mobile platform, which fall up to 600 square foot, are considered to be an RV. As long as they have wheels, they are considered to be an RV. And they just provide by the really right confused by that.
Sir?
I'm confused by that.
Well, it looks to me like, in your neighborhood in Blackville, there might be a little house with 600 square feet that would fall.
But as a tiny home?
Yeah.
Well, sure, but if you put it on wheels.
They'd be RV.
But it says here, the definition of a tiny home, which is built either on a mobile platform.
Right. So a regular house that's under 600 square feet or less would be a tiny home. You process that a lot, I don't know if that's so bad. I don't know if that's bad or not.
So, on page 1, under class A RVs, are large plus, would that be just BUS?
Which one?
Under 2A.
2A?
Yeah.
Class A RVs, large, bus-shaped RVs.
So, would that be BUS?
Well, yeah.
Okay, and then on page 3.
That's still on page 1 on your travel trailer. So you're defining these things as recreational vehicles. You got 1, 2, 3. But you're trying to cover the recreational vehicle, the recreational industry. So what about these things called yurts or tents or huts or what about all those things?
I think it's fine what's built on the ground. I mean, it's attached to the ground.
What I'm asking, I think what I'm trying to ask is, I can think of two, I can visualize at the moment, here in Blackville County, those 10. One of them looks like an Indian, and one of them doesn't, Indian reservation, one of them looks like something else. Are they intended to be covered by the?
Yes. I haven't found anything.
So why are we covering an RV park that has a traditional coach and travel trailer, but we don't want to cover these? Is it the same effect to be able to get the ambulances and the fire trucks?
Yes.
Into them? And I'm pretty sure that one of those tents catch fire.
Yeah, fire trucks might have down here.
It's still taking up the space. It's down to the ground. It's within limits.
We can go back and rewrite this, I'd like to see the
Okay. Well, there will be a question for you on page 2.
Page 3, under 3B, the Blanco County floodplain regulations. Who does those?
Oh, on the, you still on the thing?
It's on page 3, 3B. It's the very last word. It's called Blanco County floodplain regulations.
Oh, okay, Blanco County. Regulations. Good.
I don't know, that's current. I don't keep up with that very well.
We do?
I know that we have regulations, but we do have floodplain maps.
But there was something that we went through, I don't know if anybody's here, we went through with LCRA that helped us develop something. I can't think off the top of my head what it was.
Apparently, I attended one meeting, but it's for Northwest.
I think.
Some of those maps go back, a lot of them go back to like the 1960s.
I understand that we have floodplain maps. I would have remembered I think floodplain regulations because this is not along the lines with reaction and we really have to be flooded in 2015 and we can't build it.
Right.
There are regulations about what.
I don't know that we have any.
Maybe we can scratch it down.
Or you can develop them.
Or, yeah, we can develop them.
I said you.
Develop, all right.
There was a lot of.
So, on page 2, the second paragraph. What about corporately owned? Because it talks about individual, privately owned and operated enterprises. What if it's not privately owned?
And for corporate, either or.
You got it, sir.
It's in the third line of the second paragraph.
Right.
Okay. And at the very top of the page, I think this is what Commissioner Peter would get to. Any home that falls under 600 square feet. Right? Okay.
And we can do a smaller size. Because it's anywhere from 450, what I read, 450 to 600. Some stuff comes from the, banking. What they do.
Who pays for the traffic study? On page 5, you have traffic study listed. Required.
The developer.
What did you, last paragraph? Last sentence, as a developer's expense?
Yeah, the analysis will determine the improvements made to the county urban developers expense. I didn't say that kind of traffic analysis to be paid for by the developer. Okay.
Down later on page, you say national average.
Mr. Record Engineer Shelley designed, not to exceed the national average of 15 units per annum. That's the national average, I think.
Why would you say 15 units and not say national average?
have to do national average changes in our rules.
We can take national average out, no problem.
Next page, you say $75 per cab. I just think you should say per cab.
Per bed.
And then, this is just like the 25% block maintenance one. I just don't know. I'm sure you all have things on the top of page 8. Is 50 spaces right for a dumpster?
That's, like that. And, yeah, 50 spaces. That is, comes from.
Does that sound right?
How do we word it to where you have to have one for less than 50 and then for every?
You change 50 to 25 or 30 or whatever you do.
Well, for one for subdivision itself, and from that point forward.
So you want to change that to 25 spaces and.
I just wanted to throw out this subject to see what people thought.
For every 45.
One for every 25?
I don't even think about this. I don't. I'm imagining a dumpster, I'm imagining a travel trailer, I'm imagining carrying out bag of garbage. 25 of them, 50 of them, 100 of them, I don't know.
Saying one for, worded to where it's one for the park itself. You gotta have one to have a park, and then that one forward, whatever number we come up with, or whether it's 10, 15, 100.
So you're saying that you have a park that has 10 spots on it, they have to have 2 dumpsters?
No. One for the park, and then say we stick with the 50. And they have 49, so it would only be that one, we're gonna say that if they did one, then they have that another one. And then go from there. Yeah.
So that's what it's like.
So that's what it says. Is that what it says? Well, sort of.
We want to add, you want to add, one just for the park, yeah, there at the entrance of the park.
But it kind of does say that.
It does say that.
You don't get to 2 without 50.
One for each 50.
Okay, that's why I was just asking if 50 is the right. I just.
So, five number one. And you just, yeah.
Also, there is a 2,500 gallon water storage tank per 100 units shall be located in lines of the Washington County Park. The tanks are next to that park standards.
Good.
Did you, want to conform that, because you wrote some other stuff in subdivision regulations? Or is this where it says, what page you want?
I did increase the size of the subdivision regulations.
Not size, it's what they're access. The page.
Okay, let's check.
PKJ.
Oh, wait. Whatever.
Clarification.
It's, yeah, fire protection.
What is that?
It's on page 8, right down.
Okay, so what I'm asking is, in the subdivision regulations, you added 3 words, a stand by, before.
Right, the wording that we originally had, didn't confirm the fire department's terminology, so they changed it here.
I said it, which should be.
Yes. They should be identical.
Yeah. That's in the filing fee and the pad fee. And break down the filing fee is $2,500, the pad fee is $175 each for each pad. Where that breaks down is $100 goes to septic and $75 goes to 911. This goes, but these both goes to Allison Bass at one time. Jim Allison, I read a portion that he put out on RV, that RV park is nothing more than a subdivision.
No, as of even yesterday, he agrees that RV park is a subdivision.
Yeah, it is a subdivision.
He stops short when it becomes a park. So, okay. So why don't we get out there all of whatever work product we have, obviously have yesterday for Kim. Together, and then we'll package it up for Allison.
I'll make these minor corrections and email Tommy with.
Is there anything else on items 20 and 22? 25, 5, and 26.
I'll make a motion with adjourn.
Do we need to make a motion to send it to Allison Bass?
We did.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Made a motion, is there a second?
Sorry.
Mr. Riley, discussion on favor, say aye. Also.
That's good, I got some brush. I'm gonna go find some lunch and finish up those monitors.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not. Okay. Call.